Elevator finishes breakfast. Time is. You're watching mine. Vodafone time. 57. Hungry? How can you be hungry? We went for breakfast. You want the lollies? No. I will promise you guys, do not take any lollies now. I will get some lollies and bring them on the ride home. Okay? Promise. Right. What have you got? Now we need to bail out of the bag. In the back pocket of the bag. On the way home, yes.
Daddy, do you know where the bell is?
Alan. Right, now walk around the room and yell out 2 minutes. Go do it down there. Not here. Away from me.
Can I win
Callum, you can walk to the back of the room and you both get a turn and there's another turn coming at 9 o'clock. Go. You're going to stand out in the corridor. Yell 2 minutes. Go, bring it. Right. You're going to do the 9 o'clock bell, do you? Actually, Annabelle, it's 1 minute. You took a minute to get to the back of the room.
She's scared.
What do you think?
She's scaredy cat.
Go on.
She's a scaredy cat. She is so like a noble cat.
Apparently you're doing a good job. Go and sit.
Scaredy
Go and sit. Come on, go back out there. We're in 1 minute.
I don't want to do it.
Right now.
Okay, Steve.
Now, you're going to sit up here. Do you guys know that all the people in because we're on, you see how we can see them on those screens? They can see us. So I hope you lot combed your hair.
No, on their own screen.
And they got screens. They got a big screen in Auckland.
Oh, so that's not.
On the big screen. Can you see Clive and Yorick yet?
Yeah, no, I can't see Yorick. I can see Clive, and I think Neil. Is it?
1 minute. 30 seconds now, Cordelia. 30 seconds.
Yeah, you mean it's over time.
Right.
So it took 30 seconds to get down.
Go down there, Callum, and say to Cordelia she has to tell them. Take their seats, please. Go. Go. Go and help people find a seat if they need one. That's where it is. Yeah.
Couldn't you just say it?
Yeah, right.
And
Not for long. We're going to start the meeting in a minute, and you're going to find yourself. Oh, right, it's way over there.
Right. When are you going to talk?
What am I going to talk about now? Right, how are we on? Take your seats, please. Ring that bell, please, Callum. Yes, where to? Right. Oh, there's a fair bit of feedback coming through. Ghosting big time.
I can hear the whole room on my phone.
If the sound technicians didn't pick it up. Good man. Lovely.
I want that in my house.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. You all sound fine and well. This is good. Only one hangover in the Godfrey household this morning, and he's 8.5. Right. Can we have a microphone to Daniel for the morning karakia, please?
Atamaria, everybody. What did I say there? E tō mātou matu e te rangi. Kei aho e te kaha me te kororia. Manaki o mai mātou i tēnei ata. Te ata hakamutunga o ata mātou hu. Manaki o mātou whānau atia keihia. Manaki mai taku kuia e takoto nei i roto i tana kāinga i te putu o te rohe o te waipaunumu. Manaki mai hoki e rao mātou ke roto i ngā hōhi pere. Ka tia keihia. Ino i tēnei nā mātou e pārunga i te ingo tō tamai hukurai ti ame.
Real good. Time for the roll call. Daniel, you introduce yourself first.
Daniel Phillips. The last time you'll hear Daniel Phillips in the association for a while. Oh, sorry.
Harate Phillips.
Sean Johnson, board member and feedback line coordinator, committee member, Wellington branch.
Kia ora, Carolyn Weston, Southland branch, and representing Blind Foundation Board of Directors.
Good morning, everybody. Andrea Courtney, board member in Southland branch. Can I just take a minute to say hi, Auckland? The video link is just amazing. It's great to see you guys, and I hope we can continue something like this.
Pam Marsh, South Canterbury. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Janice Mertens from South Canterbury.
Kia ora tātou, Anya Kelly Costello, Auckland.
Good morning, Trish Clark from Dunedin, first time and wonderful.
Raylene Smith, Otago Network Coordinator.
RJ Greer from Tauranga, first time attendee and member.
Kia ora, Chrissy Fern, National Councillor from Nelson Branch.
Ruth Chignall, Nelson Branch.
Good morning, Jenny De Lundy, Chair of Hastings Branch.
Kia ora tātou, Amanda Stevens, Nelson Branch, and representing Deafblind Association New Zealand.
Brian Say, Nelson Branch.
Mike Stevens, Chairman of the Nelson Branch.
Bev McCulloch, Chairperson for Wellington.
June Irene, Committee Member Wellington.
Gary Tanswell from New Plymouth, representative for Taranaki.
Carl Halliburton, National Council in Wellington.
Philippa Wilson, Ashburton.
Kia, David Wilson, Chair of Deaf Blind Association.
Thomas Bryan, and this is the Wellington Phoenix table here.
No players, poor management. Anything else we should know?
Good morning, Maria Stevens, Auckland. Hello, Auckland.
Geraldine Glanville, Blind Citizens Board member from Auckland.
Good morning, Kylie Maloney, member from Palmerston North.
Anne Bain, Wellington Branch Committee.
Jane Mahaffey, and I'm still from Wellington.
Morning, everybody. It's Ina Smart, Wellington Branch Committee.
Kia ora, Vic West, National Council, Southern Branch.
Good morning, Kevin Fisher, Vic's West Support.
Morning, everyone. Fraser Alexander, representing the Foundation of the Blind Board of Directors and recording the apology for the chair, Rick Hosking, who's just arrived back in from overseas this weekend.
No excuse.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Melanie. I'm John's carer.
Good morning, everyone. John Williams, Rotorua. Coordinator for guide dogs. I'm sorry about my voice, but I have problems with my throat. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Vaughan Dodd, Auckland.
Hi there, everyone. Hello, Auckland. It's Murray Pete, board member, Blind Citizens New Zealand. For those who care, we won the rugby. Woohoo!
Good morning, everyone. It's Carolyn Peach, National Councillor, Auckland.
Good morning, everyone. This is Lily Harrison Tilbert. Sorry about that. I was just banging the mic with my teeth. Soon to be a member of the Auckland branch.
Good morning, everyone. Auckland included. Lena Coleman from Auckland Branch Committee member and Banzat representative.
Good morning, George Taggart here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kerry Gorman from Wanganui. I'm also the National Councillor. Thank you.
Good morning, Kevin Gorman, Wanganui.
Kia ora, David Allen from Dunedin, Otago Network, and part of Blind Sight Limited, distributor of executive products, incorporated, and tactile screen protectors.
Yeah, well, we'll send him the invoice for the advertising campaign.
Paula Waby, board member and World Blind Union rep. Make sure to read the next issue of Focus because I'm going to put a report about Mongolia in there. I was hoping to catch up with people over the weekend, but we didn't manage to organise a meal or anything as I had hoped.
Kia ora, Paul Brown, Auckland.
Hi, Martina Williamson, Vice President of Blind Citizens and from Auckland.
Morning, this is Wendy from Auckland.
And good morning, this is Keith Palmer from Wellington. It's very interesting to see that the population of the top table has increased a lot. Is it joint chairmanship this time, Jonathan?
One of them has been asking questions what a branch is. So they want to know things already. This is good. Unfortunately, they're not eligible to be members.
Puta Irutini from Wellington National Office.
Okay, you three, you need to go and see Putty and introduce yourself.
Hannah from Wellington National Office.
Those two, go.
Hello, my name is Callum Godfrey and I am from Palmerston North.
Hello, my name is Annabelle Godfrey and I am from Palmerston North.
Someone gone shy.
We do have a rather reluctant person, introducer here today.
We'll come back to that one. We'll go to Auckland, please.
Everyone? Yep. Yes. Good morning, everyone. Clive Lansink here in Auckland. Unfortunately, several of our people have decided to stay away this morning. Must be a bit soft. But it's only the people with staying power that are here this morning.
Kia ora, everyone down in Wellington. Yes, the true stayers are here. And I'm glad that the video link is working out for our low vision colleagues. We're pretty impressed with it up here too. We've had quite a lot of feedback about the things we're seeing. Special hello to Callum and Annabelle and Cordelia, and Yorick is saying hello to all three of you as well.
And it's at a comfortably safe distance from being stolen.
Kia ora tātou, it's Don McKenzie here, and I'm trusting that there'll be 2 or 3 minutes for general business later on in the day, Mr. Chair.
Time permitting, yes. 2 or 3 minutes, Don, are you sure?
Good morning, everyone. It's Alan Webster from Auckland.
Good morning, Shirley from Auckland with staying power and braille power.
Yeah.
Kia ora, everybody. It's John Puhara. I'm still here. The Bears are still here, Auckland. I didn't drink them all last night. And it was a good night because we had the chairman of the board here drinking with us, Richard Hoskin.
Catherine Stevenson, I've just arrived. I left my house at 8:15, got on a bus at 8:30, and I got here at 9:10, which is pretty amazing for public transport in Auckland. And I want to know who won the pogo stick.
There's volunteers in Auckland. Would you like to introduce yourselves, please?
Hello, everybody. My name is Neha Patel, and I'm volunteering here today just for the morning, and lovely to meet you all.
And hello, I'm going to stand in the front so the camera can see me. It's Tom Schnackenberg. I'm the brother of Mary Schnackenberg, and so she kindly gave me the opportunity to come along and volunteer this morning, and I'm looking forward to enjoying the day.
How kind, Mary. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Rose Wilkinson from Wellington. Also with a special greeting from Janet Palmer, who's been not terribly well this weekend and unable to attend, letting everybody know that she's been listening in and sends greetings to everybody. Thank you, Janet.
Your turn. Go. Okay. We'll just do it. You say, hello, my name is...
Hi, my name is Cordelia.
Right. Good. Yeah. There you go. Big round of applause. Right. I don't need my helpers anymore. You guys need to get back to the room and make sure that Amy found all your stuff. Cord. Right. Today's order of operations, we're going to go to the resolutions committee as soon as we can. So if the microphone can get to Vaughan. The Aucklanders may not be aware of one announcement last night. The prize for life membership was drawn in the evening. And I said the condition was that the person had to attend on all 3 days. Catherine Stevenson, you have a life membership should you wish to take that up. Visuals?
Yes.
Yes, lovely.
Would you like to give her a microphone? I don't think she. Do you want to give her an opportunity?
Catherine, do you want a microphone chance or are you
Yes, she does.
smiling? Yep, microphone to Catherine, please.
I'd love to accept. Thank you very much. I just told the Auckland branch it was better than a pogo stick. Those Wellingtonians who don't know, Briscoe's donated several items for prizes for us Aucklanders, which included some very nice things. There was a coffee table, there was a set of really nice sheets, some a diffuser, a scented diffuser, and a candle thing. But there was also some funny little things like a pogo stick, boxing gloves, and 7 rugby balls. I'd love to accept the life membership and thank you very much. First time I won something.
So, and then for the record, winners last night, Extra Touch Award was given to Brendan Boyle, Chief Executive at Ministry of Social Development, for his leadership in the getting the accessibility charter well underway, enshrined, hopefully. And we now know that 32 of his colleagues at the chief executive level have signed up to the accessibility charter. So Brendan and 32 others, just a small number to go. That's massive. We know that Anne Hawker has been material in running around and getting things happening within the other government agencies though. And she does many other things, but this I think will go down as the one that we remember her for, possibly because it's the one that she's actually been singled out for when perhaps in the past we didn't do enough to recognise someone like that in our extended disability community. So we gave her the Blind Bit of Difference Award and she was suitably surprised. Ascot Park was given the Blind Bit of Difference also for the massive well done effort from Conference 2017. The Johnston Cup for Leadership was awarded to Carolyn Peat in recognition of her leadership within her branch and this community. And the McDonald Award for the branch or network with the highest conversion rate of local blind community members into Blind Citizens New Zealand members went to Southland. Right, so yeah. Right, Vaughan, you've got a microphone? Oh, it's very close to you. Well, yeah, it's right there with you. Take it away, Mr. Convener.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. I'll go through what we have and the associated discussions that are required. And then, so I will move each resolution. It'll be seconded by a member of the committee. When the process of the resolution specifically has completed, I would just like to take a few additional seconds to provide some closing comments in terms of our work. So, actually, I wonder if this could be held so that I can braille read. Thank you. So, now we've got, these are very directional. Am I making sense to people?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the first of these, the Accessibility Charter is a powerful advocacy tool. Blind Citizens New Zealand encourages individuals to use the Charter in their own advocacy activities. The requirement to provide accessible information, part of me thinks we should make that information and services, is a fundamental human right. I so move, Mr. President.
I think we'll just slip in the and services because as a friendly. Yep. So seconded by who, sorry?
Chrissy.
Chrissy. Thank you, Chrissy. Speakers.
Paul Brown.
Anyone else?
Um,
We'll go to you,
Clive and
Paul, and then Clive in Auckland. Microphone to Paul, please.
Kia ora, Paul Brown here. I'd like to support the remit, but I've got one wee change to suggest because I think it keeps getting left out. And it got left out in the discussion yesterday around accessible information for the UN. And it chimes with one of the priorities of the IMM, which is actually accessible information and communication. And I think that's really important. So government agencies give us stuff accessibly, but if they then continue to communicate, with the attached scanned PDFs or, whatever, then we've got an issue. So I would like a friendly, and I'm happy with services, drop one of the ands and add information and communication, because I think it's important. It's not just about information on websites, but it's about an ongoing commitment to continued accessible communication.
Is there anyone not happy with that? Because I'll take it as a friendly insertion. No one's voicing any opposition. We'll insert communication after information. So information, comma, communication, comma, and services. Clive, you're next, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think I'm confused as to whether the charter has actually been circulated to us, because I think there was an agreement that it would be, but whether I've missed it or not, I don't know. But I don't believe I've seen it.
June focus, Clive.
Must have missed it there. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? It has been brought to us by the Resolutions Committee, moved, seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Lovely, carried. Vaughan. Vaughan, just to help me, how many have you got in total?
3 in total.
3 in total, lovely.
The first of which we've done.
Yes, thank you. I just timekeeping planning, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. This relates to the census and reads that ABC NZ continues to work with Statistics New Zealand to ensure that from the 2023 census forward, everyone can participate in whichever way best meets their needs. Online access needs to be universally accessible and browser independent. Individuals need to be assured that their confidentiality and dignity will be preserved. That is the resolution, Mr. President. I so move.
Seconded. Anya? We'll just friendly amend the ABCNZ to Blind Citizens New Zealand at the front, people, which is what we do. That was moved and seconded. Speakers, please.
Oops, sorry, we've got Carolyn Weston in Wellington and Shirley in Auckland.
We'll go to Shirley in Auckland and then come back to Carolyn in Wellington. Shirley, when you're ready.
Yes. Now, having to take part in the census, I needed assistance from a sighted person, my daughter, and I really regret the fact that there was no Braille. Everyone up here has got a negative experience about it. including someone who had had to do it outside because the census caller didn't want to go inside the house, and this sort of thing it compromises our dignity a bit. My daughter even said, they want to know how many times you go to the toilet, etc., which I thought was a stupid comment, and I had a good laugh, but I didn't answer the question. But this is the thing you get when you have to get someone secondhand to do these things for you. So we're relying on you, Jonathan, to make our case to the statistics department. And frankly, this experience was less positive than I've had in the past with filling in census forms. So I hope this will have a better outcome next time round in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. I'm not sure you were directing all the pressure at me, but someone in the room says yes with a Northern Hemisphere accent. Carolyn, according to one of my children, that wasn't such a small little brother.
This is just a slight suggestion. I wondered if we could change a wording in the draft from 2023 forwards to maybe 2023 onwards. It might sound a little better.
Can't do that. I'm going to give you a big friendly amendment. We are about to see a new wave of data collection across government, and it's no longer just the census that is going to matter to us. And I think that as well as it's saying the census, we actually need to talk about all data collection exercises, all delivered or made by central government agencies, including the census. And I actually don't think that we need to wait till 2023 for giving them the message. From now on, as far as I'm concerned, if the government survey comes out next week and we aren't able to participate, I will need a drink of water, to participate. Yeah, it's there. Then it's not including us. So is there a way to, Rose, you've been manipulating?
Yeah.
What have we got?
Don't just. So what are you asking, Jonathan, to manipulate?
I want it so that it actually talks about all government data collection exercises, yes, including the census, or especially the census, if you like. I think especially the census, probably as the pinnacle. And I would say from now on, I don't want to wait till 2023 to be satisfied. Wow, that's gold. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Kylie, is that you with the suggested rewording? Let's see how yours matches Rose's, shall we?
And we've got Mary in Auckland.
And Mary in Auckland as well. So Kylie, let's see what your suggested wording sounds like.
I'm not making any changes until you finish. That Blind Citizens New Zealand work with all government agencies, continue to work with all government agencies to ensure that all surveys,
Kylie, can you just
sentence.
Sorry, Kylie, can you just hold on a minute? Yep. You're rewording you're reading the whole thing, so I just need to grab the whole content. Just a moment.
So we just take the from 23 forward. So and we replace it, Stats New Zealand, with all government agencies. So if we say that Blind Citizens New Zealand continues to work with all government agencies to ensure that any data collection exercise.
Can I have every data collection?
Every year, especially the census. And then we continue with the wording as it was.
and we drop the from 2023.
Yes, yeah. How does that sound?
Okay. Is that, is that
Okay,
word
just-
to me?
It blinds-
Read to me.
Right. It blinds us.
Every data collection exercise. To ensure that every especially
So everyone can participate. So it's
to make sure that everyone can participate.
everyone can, in whatever way best meets their needs.
To ensure that all data collection
The Blind Citizens New Zealand continues to work with all to ensure that everyone can participate in whichever way best meets their needs.
We've lost a verb.
Yeah, to ensure every data collection
Is accessible to everyone. Is accessible to everyone. And then what does it say? In whatever.
So they can participate on whatever way meets
Yes.
their needs.
Okay, we think we got it.
Right, shall I read it back?
We lost something in the second half because of the changes we made in the first half. So we think we've got it.
Right. So I'll read out what I've got for the moment. That Blind Citizens New Zealand continues to work with all government agencies to ensure that every data collection exercise, especially the census, is accessible to everyone so they can participate in whichever way best meets their needs. Online access needs to be universally accessible. And Vaughan, I've got two words here jumbled together, I'm sorry.
Universally accessible.
Yeah.
And browser independent.
Browser.
Yeah. And then there's a full stop.
Right. Got it.
Shall I read you the rest?
And individuals need to be assured their confidentiality and dignity is preserved.
Yes.
Full stop. Okay, I think we've got something nice. We will read it back before the vote. We're going to Mary in Auckland, I believe, next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully just friendly. Increasingly, local authorities are surveying us, and I wondered whether all government agencies and local authorities is sufficiently broad to include things like the DHBs and other contractors who are surveying us for goodness knows what purpose. So certainly all government agencies and local authorities, hopefully, and their contractors.
Just a little bit grammatically, we'll hang our hat on the accessibility charter to make sure their contractors deliver, but it's the continues to work with. We are working with government agencies. We aren't currently working with all local authorities. So as long as everyone is aware that that when we say continues to work with, it doesn't actually imply that we're already engaging with 76 local authorities.
Okay.
Okay.
And their contractors then, because I think, haven't you got that's built into the accessibility charter?
I think we'll use the accessibility charter for any government agency passing on the work to anyone else. So we've got that. We've got the contractors covered through the accessibility charter.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah. So I'm happy to include and local authorities as a friendly, as long as people realise it doesn't actually mean that we're going to suddenly have this massive workload trying to talk to every single local authority tomorrow. Yeah, we can certainly try and hold them to account, but we don't have an accessibility charter with local authorities at this point in time. Might be called work in progress. I'm tempted, Mary, to leave it out for the moment, and I would hope that quickly maybe resolutions can really start to think about the comments made yesterday afternoon that I made actually about the need to move our focus towards consistent service across the country through our local authorities, and try and pick it up there, so that maybe to encompass whatever is done at a national level somehow also be rolled out locally. I think we'll lose something if we try and do everything now with this one resolution. Chrissy, in here. Anyone else on there?
I agree with Jonathan with leaving it out. I feel like we may be making this resolution a bit unwieldy, and I really feel that what we've already said is what is required.
Coming back to you, Vaughan. I was going to leave you to last, actually.
Well, I just wanted to comment that I think, Mr. President, with the current discussion, conference has understood that the board now has more discretion than perhaps historically to respond as the environment changes, that resolutions now become more statements of principle and strategic direction rather than detail.
Okay, are you wanting local authorities in then, or are you happy to leave it out?
I'm not adamant either way. To me, the issue is to respond as circumstances change.
Yes. Would you like to pick something up on local authorities in a broad sense then for the resolution, so that we can get that angle covered?
Are we talking specifically about data and research?
No, not specifically about data, in a broad sense.
Ad-libbing.
At morning tea, perhaps?
It would be...
Mr. Chairman?
Clive, I'm suggesting, Vaughan, that maybe resolutions meets at morning tea, and I'll pick it up after morning tea. Yeah. Clive, are you wishing to contribute?
I can't help thinking that we're kind of overthinking this. I agree to perhaps leaving it out of the resolution and just noting in the minutes that, because I don't think this is a controversial point, noting in the minutes that as resources become available, the principle of accessibility of data collection be promoted to local authorities.
And there's a comment in the room, and to DHBs.
Yes.
So other government entities that are not central government, yes.
Yes. And can I just, while I've got your attention, Mr. Chairman, say that when you're ready to come back to the previous topic we were discussing, I've got an extra point to make. It's kind of a point of order, just to ensure that the information...
Okay, well, can we take that now, please, while you're holding the microphone?
All right. I went to the September and the June Focus magazines, and the accessibility charter isn't there.
Okay, right.
So, I think we need to show on the record that so far I believe it hasn't been circulated, but it needs to be, and I think we did agree that it would be. And so this is just a communication matter now, that if we're going to promote the accessibility charter, it needs to be circulated so that members actually have it.
Indeed, we probably need to point people to the right resource as often as we possibly can.
Sure.
That will be followed up. So can I come back to the substantive motion under discussion, which is the data collection exercise resolution? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on that? If there isn't, I'll ask Rose to reread it as it stands.
Okay, so as it stands, that Blind Citizens New Zealand continues to work with all government agencies to ensure that every data collection exercise, especially the census, is accessible to everyone so they can participate in whichever way best meets their needs. Online access needs to be universally accessible and browser independent, individuals need to be assured their confidentiality and dignity is preserved.
That's still moved in the name of the Resolutions Committee Chair. Is that still happy? Happy with that, Vaughan? It's still moved in his name. The seconder, that's changed a fair bit since you seconded it. Are you still happy, Anya? Lovely. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. As one of the two people who's likely to do a lot with that resolution, it will help, promise. Vaughan, we're back to you for the...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This reads that a revised constitution be made available to all financial members in their preferred format before relevant amendments to the Incorporated Societies Act become law. Careful management. Sorry, committee, I'm reading the wrong one. I'm reading. Can I just pause, Mr. Chairman, unless somebody can pick this up on my behalf, because my drafting is quite different to what we have proposed, and I need to be sure I have the right one.
I think, Anya, it's Rose here. I think Anya may be trying to come to the rescue here.
You'll need a microphone, please.
Yeah,
there we go.
I'm not sure if I have all of it, but that conference asks the board to take time and resource necessary to formulate a constitution that best meets the needs of our organisation now and into the future, full stop. We further ask that this time includes implementation of robust and transparent processes that promote maximum member engagement up to and including all ballots.
That's correct.
Lovely. You may need to read that back to us again so that we've got it perfect for the record, please, Anya.
Yeah.
And you might need to read a little bit slower for those of us who don't speak so fast.
Sorry. That conference asks the board to take time and, sorry, this was my notes, not to take the time and resource necessary to formulate a constitution that best meets the needs of our organisation now and into the future, full stop. We further ask that this time includes I think there should be the implementation of robust and transparent processes that promote maximum member engagement up to and including all ballots. And Kylie drafted it, so I'm not sure if Kylie, if that's right. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Lovely. Moved in the name of the convener and seconded by Kylie. Discussants, who wants to have a go? There are no hands. Do you want it read again? No, thank you. I'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Say nay. Right, lovely. I call that carried. And Vaughan, if your team quickly meets and decides whether they're going to do anything with the other or whether the minute is enough, I'll ask you at the end of morning tea. So can we then go back to where we left off on the agenda on Friday afternoon, which is 7.11, the operational issues discussion paper, attachment golf, G for golf. Important note was that the GRP had raised a number of issues in their deliberations, which they felt the board needed to address. Rather than being told by conference to go away and address the matters the GRP had raised, the board thought that it was much better for everyone concerned if we stepped up and gave responses to the points that the GRP had raised. I'm willing to, for anyone to ask questions and pass comment. Oh, we've got lots to do, we? Oh, right. We need to. So while you're thinking about it, maybe refreshing your minds about what attachment G looks like.
Right, so we'll do the Southland plate.
Southland Branch door prize is a lovely plate. It's a piece of art. It's not a dinner plate, and it's certainly not something you leave in the hands of my children. It's quite a nice thing. It is tactile. It is visually appealing. It is a piece of beauty. You look after it. Jenny DeLundy, can you look after it all right? Alrighty. Speakers for attachment G. Clive, we're coming to you first, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So a lot of good stuff in here, but I only want to comment about a couple of things. The first is I'm a little disappointed to read the comments about people who propose remits. Perhaps it's just, I think the sentiment there is rather critical of, perhaps there's a view that some people kind of misuse the remit process. And I just think that that's an unfortunate comment. The other point I wanted to make, I think membership decline is part of a bigger problem, because it isn't just a decline in financial membership that we're concerned about, but the foundation's own figures tell us, for example, that there's a decline in the number of people voting in elections. So last year, that number was, I think, less than 800, like it was 700 and something. Now that's just going from memory. I haven't actually checked, but I seem to remember last year when the election results were read out, noting in my mind that that was getting to be very low as well. And so my theory, in a way, is that the decline in membership of Blind Citizens New Zealand is actually reflecting the same decline in people voting in elections, and that what we're actually seeing is a kind of disengagement going on. And I still theorize that the people who are voting, the people who are taking an interest in our affairs, a reasonable number of them remain as active members of Blind Citizens. That's my theory. And it's just that the numbers are declining, which really tells us that there's more and more people disengaged.
Thanks, Clive. I had a chat with the Blind Foundation's chair about a month ago when we were trying to work out this Meet the Candidates session for their election, and he bemoaned the numbers voting in the foundation election at that time in that conversation. He has, of course, also bemoaned the number of people engaging in our election quite nicely on our behalf, but I rather pointed out that the proportion of our financial members who vote is considerably higher than the proportion in his election. But also correspondingly, I rather suspect that if we were to gauge our cut through to the blind people of New Zealand who want to engage in a general sense, the number voting in the Foundation's election represents a proportion of the total blind community of New Zealand. And if we look at ourselves with respect to that number, we aren't doing too bad with our number of financial members exceeds half the number of people voting in their election. And I think that's pretty cool. But I certainly remember when I was at Auckland branch and you had the voiceover of Terry Small on the video clip, and I put this in my Focus article, I think, that Terry Small mentioned that their membership for this organisation at that time was 1,500. And it was some 30% of the foundation's membership. We can't boast that today. So yeah, things have definitely changed for one reason or another. I hope that by the time the board receives the report on how the member engagement program that is underway right now is going, that we will be given some further directions of how we might further engage with members, keep people engaged in this movement. But we'll see. We're waiting for those results like everyone else. Any other speakers on that topic? We have Paul Brown.
Kia ora, Paul Brown here. I'd just like to pick up on the point Clive made about the swipe that this paper takes at people who propose remits. You know, people have to get a remit through a branch and then it comes here. It's one of the most democratic processes we have. And I think this is symptomatic, actually, of stuff coming from this particular group, which I received a response after spending a considerable time replying to the constitutional group, a response that I think in reply, I replied saying that the response was condescending and defensive. And I think this process has been quite like that. I think to talk about members in the dismissive way that this particular group looking at our constitution has is really quite unfortunate. I actually think that remits is one of the most democratic process. If someone can get something through a branch, whether it starts as their idea or not, and bring it and get agreement to conference, that's something to be celebrated, not to have some kind of swipe. And if there's any evidence, really, that the remits process is being abused, then people should put up, really. I actually think, to be honest, it was more in some ways not this committee, but individuals in it, slightly abusing their position in terms of replies that came back, not from the, in the name of the committee, but as I say, I don't believe that, well, my understanding is that they were not. And I just think to have a swipe at members in this way is unfortunate.
Don McKenzie, are you on this topic or another one? On this one? Don?
Can I just make it clear that the GOP was absolutely in support of remits? I think what it was saying was that clearly the remits process needs to be looked at, but there's no doubt whatsoever that the remits process is essential to the health of BCNZ and its branches. People have to feel empowered and be able to put their concerns, and there is not the slightest doubt in the GRP's mind that has to stand.
Thank you, Don. We'll go to Vaughan.
Remits is one of my favourite activities within this organisation. As a drafter, in all the roles I've had, drafting them, presiding over the meetings, taking part here nationally. I think that we need to link remits with the lived experience of blindness. Something has happened to someone or all of us that generates a passionate response. In my first entry into the national level, We used to often talk, no, not often, but we would talk about can we do things with the remits to improve their quality. I have come to the view, which when it's discussed as part of planning and conference feedback and stuff, I may need to say again, that the board needs a remits process from which the board is at arm's length. That is really important to the democracy that Paul has talked about. It's also very important that if we assist a branch or network with remit drafting, it is for points of clarity and grammar, as often described in the preamble and the memos that go out for remits. I, for one, as a drafter of many remits and seen them become organisation policy, including the Braille strategy as it happens, where we have an outcome, object to the notion that some of us might in one way or another be vexatious or just pushing a personal agenda. Some of us believe that even though we have voted for the process of constitutional change as outlined in the GRP process, some of us are watching to see whether the organisation becomes centralised to the extent that individual members feel disempowered. And in Auckland, where we have drafted 7 or 8 remits in previous years, it was disconcerting for us at our general meeting for this purpose to discover that none of us had done anything. And yet we are a passionate branch. We've got lots of issues on the go. We brought census to this organisation, not through a remit, but through activism and belief in the purposes of the organisation. So I think disparaging statements about remits and the people who prepare them are totally uncalled for.
Anyone else? There is no other speaker. That's at risk of sound like a party political broadcast. If remits die from this organisation, I won't be president. I might still be a member because there's a chance to fight for them and get them back. But I firmly believe that my job on your behalf is much easier to do if I have clear statements coming from conference that say this is not about Jonathan Godfrey, this is about a massive group of people who are happy, who are angry, who are frustrated, sometimes joyed. But it's great to be able to say it on behalf of a bunch of people standing beside you and behind you, if only on paper, not in the room with you. And it really does have an impact when those of us who have had the pleasure of sitting before parliamentarians, government officials and everyone, you know, when I can sit there at the table, and I'm sure this is true for others, when I can sit there at the table and know that what I'm saying carries the backing of hundreds of people, my voice is all the stronger than the other disability advocates sitting down the table who talked to themselves over breakfast. Any other speakers wishing to talk about the paper?
We've got Carolyn Weston and Vic West.
We'll go to Vic West first, Carolyn. He said a lot less than you. Yeah. Vic, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to raise the question of the operation of the 0800 line, and I just want to talk about it generally because the branch has been sent some correspondence to you, Mr. Chairman, and this is some of it is a sensitive nature. So we'd like to seek a review of that, the operation of that 0800 line.
So, Vic, are you referring to the 0800 number for TIS?
No,
or for
just
National Office?
0800 line for our blind citizens, 0800 line I'm talking about.
For National Office?
The National Office, yes. Okay. So, well, generally speaking, I just want to say that I just feel that we're asking for a review of that, but generally speaking, I just feel that it should be as manned most of the time, if not. I know that I'm not asking a lot of that because I know at the moment it's manned for 4.5 hours.
Yeah. Okay, Vic.
Yes.
I think I'd like to summarise a little bit and clarify. You're starting by mentioning the 0800 number led to some confusion. So whether you ring on the 0800 number or direct dial into Wellington using a Wellington phone number, there is a pretty good chance that you will get a machine. Yeah. And I feel that that is a symptom of our resource issues. It is not a symptom of the people who we do have working for us at all. They're good people, but we do not have the resource to have any phone line answered every single hour of every single day by a human. I'm sure everyone will forgive us for not doing that overnight, but at the moment, we can't even do it 9 to 5 every working day. And we know that personal contact matters to many of our members. We do know it. Carolyn, we're coming to you.
Haven't had the letter yet because I haven't written it. I just want to go back to remits and say that I believe that remits are the foundation of this organisation. I certainly wouldn't like to see them be disposed with. And I was surprised when at our Southland branch, we usually do have a remit, not every year, but most years, but no one had any idea of what to put forward for a remit this year. It didn't happen, but it is probably quite unusual for our branch for that to happen. And but I just wondered too if people are a little bit kind of overstretched at present, like so much things are happening, you sort of don't know where to turn. But certainly I personally would not like to see remits go down the tube.
Thank you, Carolyn. Remits will survive as a message well received. We're going to George.
Hi, it's about the telephone, the 0800 number that I'd like to just mention that I'm supposed to be anonymous, but I work for Telefriend, a service of the foundation. We have an 0800 number that is staffed by volunteers from 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock, Monday to Friday. So there should be the ability in this. Oh, and by the way, what happens is that we dial a number and transfer the 0800 number to our home phone. You need a landline, obviously, but that's the only qualification. So it's a suggestion that maybe blind citizens could adopt a process like that to help meet Vic's concerns.
Thank you, George. We're going to Anya next.
Hi, thanks. I just wanted to clarify, just in case it wasn't clear, that my paper for conference that mentioned could we do a prioritisation process was definitely separate from GRP, and that my own personal view on the remits process is probably just that I don't know whether there are any criteria around remits. The only thing I guess I would particularly say, or maybe two things. One is that if there are a lot of remits at one go, that it can just be quite a lot of discussion and quite a lot of sitting, and just a little bit tricky in terms of time. And another one, I guess, that sometimes I do wonder whether if issues get brought that are, they're valid in their own right and they're important, but that maybe they're more relevant at a pan disability level or at a level where it would be less strategic for us to prioritise them, whether there couldn't be some sort of like conversation between the branch or whatever and the board before a conference to say, do you really want to bring this, or some sort of process there to just kind of streamline the information. Yeah, thanks.
You seem to have inspired some speakers on you. Motivated, perhaps. We're going to Murray, and then we're going Murray, Brian, Paul, in that order. Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the comment I would make as a board member is what I would like to see is, obviously it's really important that we get remits coming to conference. I think that's really important, but also going hand in hand with that, I think it's really important that when people have issues and they want to get action with them pretty quickly, do get in contact with the board. We've tried to tell branches and networks that if you've got issues, you don't have to hold on to them to conference. You can if you wish, of course, that's entirely your right. If you want to bring them to the board, we would welcome them. We welcome discussion papers. We welcome your suggestions, your thoughts. We want to hear from you. So please do get in contact with us. We'd be very pleased to hear from you. Thank you.
Brian, say?
Yes, as I listen to this conversation, I think back when we had lots of remits in a queue waiting to be, they had been accepted and needed action. Are we saying that all those have been cleared now, or that you still have issues which are pending?
We very definitely, Brian, have the issues list pending. The board will go back through the outcomes of this meeting with how we dealt with everything from last year in combination. So if there's something was proposed 2 or 5 years ago that is now the moment is more right, it will be in the mix for discussion, and it may well be a higher priority in the next 12 months. The board will work that out in November. But no, we are not clearing the backlog or the slate, if you like, and starting afresh. That would be, foolish of us, demeaning of members' efforts over the years. And no, it's not happening. We are keeping everyone's resolutions and remits from the past. Some of them may naturally go stale. Some of them will be resolved and reported back to conference. But no, the past is part of us. One of the values that we put in the strategic plan, we value our history. We'll go to Paul.
I just want to come back in this one because I think I'd like to make some what I think are quite important points. So I think something Vaughan said was really important, particularly in the light of the changes we passed the other only just on Friday, around the Constitution, which people know I was against, and so I think safeguards do need to be built in, and I think that a remits process within this organisation is its lifeblood, and they need to be built in. But I think the point that Vaughan made, I think, is really important, and I think something different was put forward, that it needs to be independent of the board. I don't think people who have got issues and want to have them raised at conference should be talked out of it by the board to say, oh, we don't have time for that, I'm not this one. Actually, I do think that we should be looking at whether or not we have a kind of conference business committee or conference arrangements committee, a kind of bigger job for what we now call the resolutions committee. I think that people should be helped with drafting remits. It should be really clear what's in an explanation and what's in the remit. I think people should be helped with, remits ought to say what is the action that the board needs to take, and in conjunction or with whom, with which agency or whatever. And I think helping like that is important. But I actually think an independent remits process is the lifeblood of an organisation like this, and is crucial if we want to remain, I believe, a DPO under the current kind of DPO criteria. Resolution should not be vetted or categorised or anything done to by the board, in my opinion, in that manner. If someone, and I go back to what I said earlier without apologising for it, if someone gets an idea, is motivated to write it up, gets it through a branch, gets it agreed for coming here, and then gets it supported by conference, that's bloody democratic. And I think, we need to keep that process going. It's a one, and I think the other issues with members raising things, absolutely right. We shouldn't just wait to conference time. But I think remit's independent, and particularly in light of the changes we made, if we want to keep any semblance of democracy in the organisation, then remits independent of the board are more crucial now than ever.
Kylie?
Thank you, Mr. President. All I was going to say, and it might sound oversimplistic, but if there's concern about the quality of remits, why don't we issue a set of guidelines? If there's a skill gap, which there may be, then teach people how to do it.
There are actually guidelines in the branch manual for developing remits. Perhaps they aren't being used as well in the past by everyone, but they are guidelines. I've suffered with some remits as they come out in the past. I've tried to work out what the person is wanting. I think the quality has improved in my 15 years of playing with remits. They are getting more strategic. I suggest that perhaps we need to dust off the guidelines and make sure that they are still actually as fit for purpose in 2019 as they were when they were drafted. And one of the things that we obviously need to do is to promote those guidelines as they stand. So, but on my watch, that remit process will survive. Can we move on to any other discussions rather than remits? I think we've done remits enough for today. Chrissy, Mary, and then Vaughan. Chrissy, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mine's just a question about process. Are we going to be expected to vote on these recommendations today?
No.
Or, sorry, I missed.
No.
No? Okay,
Yep.
that was.
The board was going, the recommendation that GRP put in its original paper was that conference ask the board to respond to all of its recommendations. So the recommendation that conference would have had today would have been for the board to go away and do what it's done. So the board has done that. So the recommendation that will go is that this report be received.
Thank you.
Going to Vaughan. Oh, sorry, we threw Mary and Auckland first, Vaughan. Sorry, I did say that before. Mary, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
As well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to talk about remits. I just simply want to say that I acknowledge, as the Auckland Branch Secretary, that there is a huge amount of work in front of the board. But I plead with you to communicate with us about your priorities. That's all.
Vaughan?
I'm looking at the timelines for release of material. I concur with the sentiment which says that the board can do better with circulation of material. But I'm also aware that the timeline doesn't actually deal with matters of slippage and dependence upon others. So the context will change from this was to go out to why haven't we got it within the specified time frame? And I think the timelines can only at best be indicative. I do actually think that it's appropriate that they are considered by the annual planning process of the board rather than as a promise to conference. Clearly, further on, the paper discusses the resourcing of National Office and so on, and that's clearly a significant issue. But it's also the point that as volunteers, much as we would like to be perhaps because of our passions for the organisation, we're not actually wedded solely to its timeframes. People get sick, people go overseas, people are working, family matters intervene. So I'm a little concerned about an over-prescription of deadlines as to when things can occur. But I'm also acknowledging that the board has to do better with getting stuff out to people.
And the timelines are discussed at every annual planning meeting. So you'll get your chance in about 6 weeks' time, sir. Clive, were you wanting to comment? I'm needing to wrap this up soon. We weren't sure if you were on the speaker list or not. No, is the message. People, unless there's any burning desire, I'm going to ask for someone to move that we receive the paper. Moved, Daniel. Seconded. RJ got there first. And all those in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Thank you. We'll do morning teas at the back. Morning tea is at the back. Right. So morning tea will be served at the back when we are ready to break. Which one are we going to do first? We're going to do a door prize first because that's been... Oh, bottles of wine from Hastings. So I hope you haven't filled your bags or that you're travelling not so far.
One of the Auckland delegates will be taking this back for Alan Webster.
So someone from Auckland, can you volunteer, please, to take 2 bottles of wine back to Alan Webster?
Alan suddenly clicked. We've just seen Alan smile.
It's a good way to make sure that the bottles are light when you get them, Alan, and didn't encumber your friends who are travelling from Wellington, is to allow them to drink them first, apparently. I just mentioned a phrase that comes from the value statements that appear in our strategic plan. We value our history. And the next item, as I've got it, is a proposed inductee to the Hall of Honour. Now, we'll get to talking about George in a moment, but I did have a question from an individual member who wanted to know what was actually happening with the Hall of Honour. And it was always proposed that we didn't actually have a hallway for people to walk down, like other places have a walkway around town where you look for people's names on plaques or anything. So the Hall of Honour is a cabinet, a large cabinet, a beautiful cabinet, in which we hope to house the documents that come to conference when these people have been inducted. That cabinet is where at the moment, Rose?
Probably still just being finished off.
It's in its finishing. It has been commissioned. It has been made. It is having its finishing processes. It is due in the office by the end of the month. And I guess the board will make comment on it at November's meeting, because that's when we'll all come and have a look. So, moving to the proposition for today, the proposition is that George Fiske be inducted attachment H. Now, as well as what we see in attachment H, is there anyone who wishes to remember George in some way that we didn't know about when this document was compiled? Is there anyone who...
may be able to provide a
Vic West, you wish to have a microphone? We'll come to you. And then Daniel. And no one in Auckland, that's right. We've got it. These are comments, hopefully. JP, we've got you as well. To supplement what appears in attachment H, we want to make sure that when we remember our past, we do the best job of it. So Vic, to you, please.
Thank you much, Mr. Chairman. I want to remember George Fiskey. In 1961 in Waipu, we went up there to play hockey, of course, but two of the people there was actually, he housed all us blindies there. I think we stayed up most of the night. And so he had a house full. Well, the only other two that I can recall that was with me at that time was Andrew Taylor and Eddie Lowe. I do recall Andrew and I went with George on the back of his tractor down to the pig pen there to how to feed his pigs. So that was a great experience. I've never been down there before. So I want to say, I just was always quite full of energy guy. I've never seen anything like it. And I didn't realise this guy was just about, well, he was probably around about 38, 39. And I guess I was only, well, 21, maybe 22 at the time. And you know, he was just so full of, and he stayed up all night with us. He had more energy on all of us at the end of the day, end of the night. And so, yes, I just want to say I've never seen such an unusual person, full of energy and life and vigour. And I say, oh, yes, so that's it all. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. We'll come to Daniel.
Long time ago, I was driving home from the Bay of Islands, and my first wife said, "Look at that old bugger on the roof, trying to fix his aerial." And I thought, gee. So I pulled up there and, would you like a hand with your aerial, George? And he said, no, thank you, my mate. I'm managing quite well. And I remember that, and he was blind as a bat. The aerial probably had more sight than George. But I used to have a lot to do with him at rugby. Yeah.
And we'll come to you, John. JP.
Thank you. I remember George Fiskey from about 1965. And that period of time, Seymour Lambert, Tama Lapiki, Wana Mahaka, and a few others. We went up to my very first trip to Waipu to play blind hockey. And from about 1965 to about 1992, I played against Waipu. With George every year was there. When they came down to Auckland, then we went up there. Took turns playing blind hockey. He would organise billets for us young fellas to go to and stay with the different farmers around the Waipu area. And when they came down here, well, unfortunately, wasn't be able to do that sort of stuff. But, you know, he was a great man. There's no two ways about that. George Fiskey also was the housemaster here at the foundation, or the Blind Institute, as it was known back in those days. Also, George took people through the Waipu caves with his dog, his guide dog. And, some of you might not have had the privilege of going through those caves. The Auckland branch did, maybe 10 years ago, Mary? Maybe about 10 years ago. We went through the caves with the Auckland branch with George, and what a great and interesting day that was. What a top bloke that guy was. You know, he was just amazing. And I'd have the pleasure of staying at his house now and again when you went past. Just called him to say hello. How are you, George? Oh, you fellas like to stay the night? Oh, yeah. Sitting down with the man, and the next minute you got George. He gets you to do this, gets you to do that. And, you know, you didn't mind because, you know, he was just such a great guy. God bless you, George. I had the privilege of going up to his funeral. So God bless you, my friend. Thank you.
Pretty much every inductee to the Hall of Honour thus far has been someone that's only a name to me. They're names that people a generation older than me know because there was quality interaction like the ones that JP's just mentioned. But I did meet George once, and I can picture the exact place it was. So for anyone who's been in Auckland, the equipment shop for a while was in the Jubilee building, in the corridor running along the back of the Jubilee building. You used to walk along that corridor and then into the equipment shop. And George accosted me in that corridor. Yeah, who are you? Oh, my name's Jonathan. And you're blind or you're over, you know, whatever. Why is this old guy accosting me? What the hell does he want? I'm partly blind, sir. You know, because at that stage I was going to a school where everyone was sir who was older than you. And he said, the next thing he says, do you play hockey? I'm thinking, like hell. Like hell, you know, he goes, oh, there's blindies out here playing hockey all the time. You should get involved. It's sort of SH1T. I won't play with sighted people. What makes you think I'm going to get amongst a bunch of blindies swinging sticks around? And then I went into the equipment shop and I said to the lady, I want to buy things, but you need to tell me who that was. And she goes, oh, well, that's George. And then she just, oh yeah, that's George. And then I went back to the person I was actually meeting that day and I said, oh, I just got accosted by some old bloke in the corridor out there who wants me to play hockey. And Mark Tibble says to me, oh, that's George. So that's me and George. I do think it is crucial that we remember these people. I suspect that in keeping with the theme of conference, that George was someone who raised expectations of blind people around him. Vic, would you like to move that we induct George Fiske into the Hall of Honour? John Puhara, would you like to second that?
John's hand's already up.
John's hand is already up.
Yep.
Right. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm not even going to ask if anyone's opposed. That would be rude. Carried. $10:30 on the dot for morning tea. When we return, we will have a cameo from a member who's seldom heard. Mr. Lansink, you're up.
Paul Brown and Paul Dodd. Yeah, just a minute, people. The president's getting to you.
Yes. Paul and/or Vaughan, who's got the microphone
Can we
closest.
have a microphone to Paul first, please?
Come to Paul.
Paul first and then to Vaughan, please.
You're in the morning tea break, Paul. People are...
Yep, I'll keep it quick. I just wanted to say, while it's lovely that you've got some new cabinet in Wellington, for the rest of us who may not ever be in the hallowed building to examine the contents of that cabinet, I'd just like to ask that we look at, or if there are plans, or as well a conference too, put the Hall of Honour online,
Yes.
so that more than
Yes.
those who just pass a cabinet can access it.
Yeah, there is an online presence on the website to be planned. There is a major plan underway to digitise everything of our history, and that Hall of Honour and all those documents relevant to those people is part of that big plan. So rest assured, for those of you who can't find your way to Wellington, that you will have a way of engaging with that material. Yeah. Vaughan, you're in the morning tea break, dude.
I just need to check, given the discussion before and the question you posed to me, Mr. Chairman, as to whether minuted comment as suggested by Clive is appropriate or not. Has any of the committee resolutions decided that we need to draft something? Because if yes, we will go away and endorse it or approve it. If no, the minuted comment as suggested by Clive is sufficient. Is that Anya? Okay, all right, we go up. Let's go up to the little room at the back then.
The Resolutions Committee is going to have a little think and see if the minute of record is enough, and they may come back. Leilu, you're in the morning tea break, Leilu? Oh, it's all right, she says. Good. You can talk to me and we'll come back to you if we need to. Thank you, people. Morning tea.
Do you want to hand up to the resolution?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to? Oh, you don't need that. Yeah. Sure. You okay?
I'm never okay.
You're never okay. Okay, where are you heading towards?
Hang on, you.
This is Hennick, yeah, sure.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. You heading towards morning tea?
Murray. Sorry, everyone's standing in the bloody way. It's like fearless cows.
Kevin, do you help, she's from Dunedin, and called Lionsburg. I'm very good at she wants to help get a coffee. Would you give me a coffee? Do you like milk and sugar? Yeah, a bit of milk. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, he's going to do it. I have it myself. Oh, well, there are two people here.
3 minutes.
Orange juice on the table. Just need to go to the left of it. Hang on a minute, Maria.
Wrong sound up here. Okay, people.
Please. Didn't go on my back. Right, we'll do a door prize, so I hope you're in the room. Yeah, well, tightly folded up piece of thing. Clive, you're getting ready, I assume. Andrea Courtney. It's $50 at New World, Andy. Speaking of which, I owe you $20. Hang on. Take the 20 before I lose it. That's for Andy too. It's not part of the door prize. It's Jonathan pre-purchasing something. In the spirit of board camaraderie, Andrea brings me a product only available in Southland stores to every board meeting, and so I prepaid her for the next one. I don't get that much. I do not need a case on wheels for Andrea to bring it. Carolyn, please. Okay. I mean, if I was getting something from Hastings, it would be a case of wine, and that would need a trolley. Fair enough. Clive, are you ready?
I am.
Good man. Go ahead, please. Your
Oh,
cameo.
thank you. Even though, and my thanks for the opportunity just to say a few words, because I want to make a few observations about the Foundation's board after being a director on it for nearly 2 years. I think the board is very strong in its oversight over such matters as investments, property, the business plan, the budget, maintaining the organisation's reputation, managing risk, health and safety, and all those sorts of things. And we spend a good deal of time on our policies, on our governance processes, and all of these activities are covered by our various subcommittees. So we've got the Audit Committee, the Policy Committee, and the Governance Committee. And even last year, we would have considered the issue of recruiting and remunerating senior staff to be largely for the Chief Executive on her own to deal with. But earlier this year, we decided that no, that's going to be a strategic issue for the board. And so we've now added a People Committee to that list of committees. So that's all very good, but what about services? Now, when we speak of services, we're really talking about all the things the Foundation does for the benefit of blind people. And after all, that's the essence of why the organisation exists. And each year we give the Chief Executive a budget of, at the moment it's $36 million. Now, obviously, she must deliver on the strategic plan and the business plan, and she must operate within board policies, and she's got a performance agreement as well that she has to work within. But I don't think there's much, I feel there's not very much in those documents that clearly states what the board expects each service to actually deliver in terms of outcomes for the clients. And I've tried now perhaps maybe 3 times to get the board to give more priority to that aspect of its work. And sadly, so far without success. It's as if they feel that it's not the board's business, it's kind of operational. But I think we would say that it is the board's core business to be clear about its expectations and then to ensure that they're met when it comes to services to blind people. So I'm saying this now because we've got an election on, and I'd like to be sure that you guys will be thinking about services that we need when it comes to your vote. But how are you going to figure out which of the 9 candidates are likely to deliver what you want? Well, what I want to ask you to think about is not so much the skills that each candidate brings, but think more about the values they bring, because your vote really does count. And there are candidates on the ballot this year who not only have a very good governance experience, but whose values resonate strongly with our aspirations as blind people and also our guiding principle of self-determination. And I just want to urge you to keep that in mind when you vote. Have the courage to vote accordingly and convince others to do the same. Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Now, I'm not going to invite comment because there is an exercise that we signed up to. There's a cameo coming, but there's a meet the candidates session coming up, that because of the session that we last held in this room 2 years ago, we negotiated with the foundation to implement for themselves. I encourage you to take your questions to those meet the candidates session, or that session that's being recorded. Submit your questions so that all 9 candidates in the election can respond. This is what the board negotiated. It is being facilitated by an independent person that was recommended externally and has sign off, if you like, by me on your behalf as members of our organisation and the chairman of the Foundations Board. I hope that many of you will choose to take that opportunity that we spent energy asking for on your behalf. It should be locatable in the voting material that you have received already from the returning officer in the Blind Foundation election. Before I go to Vaughan at the Resolutions Committee, I need the microphone to go to a couple of people who have joined us. Got it? Got it. And if you'd like to introduce yourselves, please.
Kia ora tātou, it's Paula Tesoriero here. I'm the Disability Rights Commissioner. I was supposed to join for dinner last night, and unfortunately, due to some illness on the home front, I couldn't get there. You may recall, for those who were at last year's Blind Citizens Conference, I was there for the whole weekend and thoroughly enjoyed it. I was fairly early into my term at that point, but I learned a lot from the conference. I just want to say a couple of things. Firstly, great to see, I'm guessing, that people from Auckland linked in. So hi, Mary and Clive. I don't quite recognise anyone else on the screen from Auckland. I've caught up with a couple of people here in Wellington who I do know well, so thank you for that. I'm joined with me today by my 6-year-old son, Samuel.
He can introduce himself. Come on.
Who, do you want to introduce yourself?
He has rights.
rights, including the right to say no thanks.
That's right. Freedom to choose is everything.
So lots of people obviously won't know this in the room or on the screen, but just by coincidence, Samuel and I are wearing almost identical T-shirts. And so he's decided on that basis that he'll be the Disability Rights Commissioner for the day. So I'm quite interested. He comes to quite a few disability functions with me, and because I think it's important that Samuel has a good understanding about disability and hopefully can share that with other young people as he grows up. I do want to pay particular mention and thanks today to Rose and Jonathan, who I have a lot to do with in my role. And I just want to really mention how dedicated they are to the work of blind citizens, and also to barriers and challenges facing the lives of blind people and people with low vision every day. So I can just reassure you, I guess, that in all of the work that I do with them, they are passionate advocates for everything that you stand for. And also Paul Brown, who is sitting behind me at the moment, who, as you will all know, works for the Office of the Ombudsman. But I have a lot to do with Paul, as do my staff, with the work around the independent monitoring mechanism. And Paul is, as you know, a passionate advocate for all disabled people, but particularly reminds us all of the particular challenges for blind people and people with low vision. So I won't take up too much time, because I missed my opportunity really last night to spend a bit more time with you. But thank you for having us here. We'll be here until until Samuel gets so restless, but he's pretty good, and I'll be taking him for a wee bit of a treat this afternoon. Paul's already primed him for ice cream. So thank you, Rose and Jonathan, for all you do for supporting the work of the Commission. Two of my staff were here yesterday for the IMM session and let me know via phone call this morning that it went really well from their perspective. So I hope people here found it useful. So thanks, Jonathan and Rose, for your ongoing work, and look forward to continuing to work with you over the next year and to help do all I can do to protect and promote the rights of all disabled people, and pay particular attention to the work that I do and the learnings I get from you around blind people and people with low vision. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul. My advice, Samuel, is look for the bowls on the table while Mum isn't looking. And if you're like my kids, you'll have full pockets before you leave the room. My advice to Paula is you check his pockets before you leave the room. Oh, Paula's been covering Samuel's ears, apparently. He has rights. Okay, we'll come to you, Vaughan. Did the Resolutions Committee... We'll come to Vaughan. We'll come to you, Vaughan. Vaughan?
Okay, well...
Thank you.
Kylie has done the drafting of, taken the lead with this. So I've asked Kylie to present it to us, the conference, and then one of us will second it.
Go ahead, Kylie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been necessarily generic. All this really is an instruction to the board to begin working with the wider government entities. And it reads, Blind Citizens New Zealand has long been concerned by the variability of service provision across local authorities and district health boards. Full stop. Conference therefore asks the board to work with these entities, as opportunities arise, to ensure that they uphold the same standard of equity as that which we expect from local government.
Central government, I think you mean at the end, do you?
From central governments, yes, yeah.
Okay.
That's
moved in the name of the chair and seconded by you. Vaughan, you moving? And Kylie? Yes. Lovely. Is there any discussion necessary, or is everyone happy? There are no hands. I put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? In preparation. We're going to Rose right now.
Thank you, Jonathan. Two things. Kylie, I didn't get everything down, so perhaps I can get it from you or you could email it to me, if that's all right. And just before we enter into the next part of the agenda, Jonathan, I just want to say Putty needs to leave a little earlier today, and I don't want her to go without her contributions over the weekend being recognised. Her daughter is representing New Zealand internationally and travelling to South Africa, so Putty needs, again, yes, absolutely. And Putty needs to leave probably in about 5 to 10 minutes or so.
So
I just didn't want her to go
Thank you.
Right. Are they clear? We're on. I need to invite you all to stay in your seats for the next few moments. We have something going to happen. If you can see what is happening, please don't tell people around you. This is about learning, and we need to learn as individuals. None at all. Go.
Where the hell is he? He's right here in front to the right.
Go again. Go again, please. And if when you finish, come up to in front where you just were when you spoke to me, please. And would you mind, people, Josiah, who's been doing the sound techie stuff, has just gone and done 2 laps of this room on an electric scooter. And if anyone believes that they are safe on the streets with those electric scooters rampaging, maybe we need to have a chat. Now, Josiah, what facilities on that thingy do you have to help?
You mean with noise?
Well, that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Actually, the most important thing on that thingy that's going to help is you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's the main thing, is people knowing that they need to be aware and that they don't just own the sidewalk, I think. Like, even when I'm passing people who are sighted, I generally slow down and sometimes I'll get off, or other times I walk, but I definitely don't use the motor because it just doesn't feel safe to pass people at high speeds. But it does have a bell, but I wouldn't really say it's amazing.
I'll
try it.
I have to tell you that the bell on my kid's bike is better than that.
Yeah.
$5 from the Worry Furry will get you a better bell.
That's definitely true.
And Jonathan, if we went to Mary Schnackenberg right now, I think Mary would give us all a rack up about that bell.
So people, when you're next thinking that scooters aren't going to be a problem, please remember Josiah, and he's a considerate individual. Now that you know what it is, how about we remain silent and Josiah, you do one more loop.
All right.
Yeah, or a couple. Don't tell us how many you do. Okay. I couldn't guess the last one.
Is the motor going? Ask us the motor going.
Josiah, we believe the motor is not going. What happens when the motor does go? It is going.
I said ask him. Don't tell him what I think. It's going. I can't hear it.
All right, keep it quiet so that there's a good chance of hearing everything we can.
So I've just gone twice around.
Josiah's just done 2 more laps. speak to Josiah outside beside the swimming pool, Mr. Brown. There are a few individuals who wish to speak. Are we having a serious discussion point, or are we making jokes?
Thomas, you had your hand up. Jonathan's asking, is it a serious?
Oh, there's a few individuals in the room, Auckland, who want to have a go. Thomas is emailing Santa. Yeah. I think you can buy electric bikes for about $1,300. Yeah, so people are going to be purchasing these things more and more.
Microphone
needs to go to Carolyn.
Please.
Carolyn has a question that's just going to be perfectly useful.
I just want to know, how old are people got to be before they're allowed to own or actually ride these on the footpath? Because I can imagine if people like 11-year-olds or 13-year-olds that get really aggro and think they own the footpath start riding these, and we don't know, they're going to blow me away. I'm dreading to think the number of fractures I'm going to end up with.
She's got brittle bone disease. She gets more than everyone else, right? So, Josiah, can you answer any of those questions for us?
I don't really know. I mean, I can Google it really fast, but
So you didn't get given any instructions when you purchased that dangerous weapon?
Bought it on the internet, and it showed up at my house.
So it sounds like the Wild West.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's brand new, so there's hardly any legislation around it. I think New Zealand just last year passed something saying that you can ride them on the sidewalks, and that's pretty much all they've said.
Yeah.
Right. Impending issue. Keep that in mind. We'll move on.
So we've got a few hands.
We have a few hands. People
Leilu.
go to Leilu
And Bev.
and then Bev. I don't want to. It was supposed to be a 5-minute interlude, people, not a 20-minute distraction. Leilu.
Just to clarify, so the scooter, the electric scooter that Josiah just rode, does it look like the kind of scooter like that I used to have when I was little, where you'd like ride it and you'd use your foot to push off?
I'm going to suggest that people who want to see the scooter come up and have a little look over at the end of the session. And then Josiah can supervise and show you things in person. That's a great idea. We didn't ask him for permission, but just assumed.
That's fine.
We've got
Bev, and then George. And I want to wrap that one up, please. Bev?
How fast can it go on the footpath?
Well, I was actually I had it in like a eco mode where it was slower then. The maximum speed is between like 25 and I think 27 kilometers per hour, something like that. Quite fast.
George?
If you're going downhill, probably.
I would just like to know if there's room on the front of the scooter for my notice when I'm driving a car, which is jump or die.
Yes. Right. Okay, people, we need to move on with the business. We are going to the reports from national councillors. They might be the last ones. They'll be called something else in future. So, are there any questions or additions in order? We're going Wellington, Auckland, Nelson. You should know. So Wellington, going to Carl Halliburton. Anyone, any extra comments, Carl? No was a good answer.
No extra comments.
No extra comments. Any questions for Carl? Vaughan has a question for you.
Right. So Hannah, you go to Carl now because he'll want to respond.
Carl, I appreciate you preparing this report, and actually all of them across the whole country are very informative. But I just wonder, and there's some risk of scaremongering unintentionally. Some of you from Wellington, in conversation that I've had, have raised issues with security of the refurbished, renovated Adelaide Road and members areas and so forth in particular. So I just wonder what that's all about.
That seems to be a slightly confusing issue that hasn't been notified too much. My understanding is that people that use the rooms regularly on a regular basis, such as groups that meet, such as
blind citizens branch get a permanent access. Other people that use it on a one-off basis have to register a or check out a card. As far as the main reason is that there's all the other tenants in it, but it's limited information is known, since apparently the cards are all meant to be disabled in September, which they weren't. But yeah, I don't know as much. There may be someone else from Wellington that may know more.
We're going to go to Rose, because obviously
Rose
our
may know
national
more.
office is in that building, and the board will know that when there are, or the management committee especially, will know that when there are tenancy meetings, Rose is at them getting our things sorted. Rose?
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And I think tenancy meetings is one of the key comments here. So I guess broadly speaking, without doing any of the real getting into the detail of stuff, I have spoken with the foundation at a senior level. I have requested a meeting of all users of the building, of the foundation's premises, suggesting also that somebody from the tenancies are also involved in the meeting. I do personally believe there's been a lot of miscommunication, and there has been some bad handling of notification given to some users of the facilities. I do know that even as recently as Friday, but I couldn't take the call, the person that I've been talking with to move this forward, and who I believe is committed to arranging a meeting of users of the foundation's open shared spaces, that will happen, but they've been away, and that will be brought back on track. There's certainly, there are some changes in terms of the relatively new tenants to the building. For Blind Citizens New Zealand, that doesn't mean anything different for us. We don't have panic buttons. We don't have glass shields. So when we feel insecure, because we are small in number, we simply lock the doors. And that is the best approach that we can take. But in terms of the rest of the building, there's been information coming through that as a tenant, I've been very concerned to hear that we weren't even informed about. And so that's where I believe that there has been miscommunication and a misunderstanding of various things happening within the building. I hope that helps. It doesn't give you the answer that you're looking for, Vaughan. I think the key thing to know is the Blind Foundation is treating the situation seriously at a national level, now that they're aware of some of the matters that are coming through.
Thank you. Anyone else? We will now move to Auckland. Carolyn Pete, is there anything you wish to add?
Just wanted to have it publicly noted on record that the Auckland branch of Blind Citizens New Zealand sends its condolences to Merv Smith's wife Jill and family.
Thank you, Carolyn. No questions. Don McKenzie has a hand up in Auckland. Microphone to Don, and go ahead, please, Don.
Want to go back to reference to the Wellington premises. I may have misread the September minutes of the Foundation's board, but I thought I read an indication from a director of Foundation Properties Limited that it could be worth selling.
Yep.
There's confirmation from someone who knows in this room down here, Don.
Especially now it's
Right. So I think those things need to be out in the open.
Yeah.
George, take it.
I was trying to move us on to Auckland. George, are you going back to Wellington? Make it brief, please.
As always, I'm brief, Jonathan. There's a couple of things. One of them was that you stopped me from challenging Clive's earlier part of his cameo when he talked about how well the board was performing. I've got serious concerns about how the board is performing, and Don has just raised one of them.
Can we? I'm gonna hold that discussion until general business, then, please, George.
Right, as long as there is time for general business, John.
I'm trying to keep it so.
Thank you. Okay, I'll shut up now.
No more questions. We'll move to Nelson. Chrissy, anything to add? Yes, please. Right, microphone to Chrissy, please.
Sorry, just changing glasses really quickly. I'd just like to read out a really quick statement that we received from the Nelson City Council. We put a submission into their long-term plan for 2018 to 2028, and we got a written statement back from them that will be included in the long-term plan that says, Council acknowledges the needs of visually impaired or blind citizens both within the city centre and the city overall, and seeks to incorporate those requirements in redevelopment and renewal projects whenever possible. Your comments about footpaths and crossings will be considered. The information contained in your submission will be included in the council footpath upgrade prioritisation data, which ranks the footpath renewal program, and in all infrastructure works undertaken. Revisions to our land development manual include all street furniture requiring a tapping rail and separated cycle facilities on all classified roads to remove the need for shared paths on new roads. Council agrees that many of the design features highlighted by your submission should be included in design checklists. Council will contact you separately from this long-term plan process and work with the Blind Association as appropriate in future planning in relation to other matters you raised in your submission. So I just want to say that we were really pleased at such a positive outcome, and it just goes to show that it's worth going through the process of putting things into something like this when you get such great feedback.
Thanks, Chrissy. So well done, Nelson. Any comments? Questions? No, we're moving to Southland. Vic, anything to add?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to say that anybody who's coming to Invercargill with a guide dog, the council now passed a new dog bylaw, and so the people will be walking around with the street with the dog on the leash. So I just thought I'd draw that, omitted that from my report. Now that sort of got past our. Okay, the second thing was that we now have the Ridewise card, which was been in since the 1st of July. Now, the third thing I wanted to raise that we, I know that it's quite topical actually at the moment when you talk about bus transport, but I just cannot understand the process that we need to go through when the council puts out their proposal for new bus routes, and we felt that we had a fairly good proposal to go alongside theirs that would fulfil all the expectations of the people that were complaining about the short trips, the long trips into the city. But they rejected that and they put this other proposal out, and the majority of them of submissions did not support that, but they still went ahead of that, plus with just one minor alteration. So I cannot understand why people can't be involved in the planning and the design of those right from the very beginning, and let the public decide what they really need. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Vic. Comment? There's no hands raised. We'll move to South Canterbury.
Nothing further to report from South Canterbury.
Thank you. Not sure who that was. Any questions of South Canterbury? No, we'll move to Wanganui. Kerry.
Hello, everyone. I've just got a few amendments for my report. We had our AGM just recently, and we've also got 3 new committee members. We've got a new chairperson, which is Dave Cooley. I'm also being voted as the National Councillor and Vice Chairman. We've also got Joe Fallon, which is another new member that's joined the committee, as well as Russell Lowry. All the rest of the other committee members are the same, like Joe Toomey. We've got John Hanna, that's the secretary, Marion Hainsworth, Rosemary Morgan. And also, I just wanted to mention, we did have a nice sort of late mid-year lunch at the Grand, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. So that's basically all I wanted to say. So any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry. There's no hands. So we're going to Otago. Raylene, you're the coordinator now.
Hi. I've been the network
to add?
coordinator only for about 5 or 6 weeks. So I'm very newly back at the within the association. Being up front, I've got some reservations about the role, about the benefit of the role to the organisation. And my rationale for that is that no one person can sort of do something. And okay, it's networking, so hopefully we'll get a group together. But whatever, I feel that you've got a much better chance of following what is needed by the association and sort of its strategic plan by having a committee. That's my personal thoughts at the moment. The good thing that I see about the network is that it is a mechanism for keeping an area involved. But I don't really think it's ideal. I would like to recommend, and as I say, I've only been here for a very short time in this role, but I have got a pretty good understanding of the association. I would fit into that golden group of people that were referring back to the DAB. And I also in the past actually served 9 years on the Foundations Board, and that was in a role which no longer exists, where there were 2 representatives from the equivalent of blind citizens on the Foundations Board. So I have got a reasonable understanding of what's going on. So in this new role, I thought, right, I better find out, I better bring myself up to date. I didn't find that easy. I went onto TIS and also onto the website. And then I finally, thank you very much to Rose and to Putty, who gave me some links to some really useful documents. But there's a lot of stuff there, and I'm still needing to get up to speed with that. So for the future, what we would be looking at, is looking at the pros and cons of networks and branches. I hope that we will be able to do that. I would like to get some feedback from the group here, possibly. I've been trying to find Gary because he's the one person that's been down as a network coordinator. So I'd like to hear more about network coordinators, and also whether people have got any thoughts that could sort of help us to make sure that we do stay on track, so that we're working cooperatively towards the, just the aims of the what's now blind citizens. Thank you.
Thanks, Raylene. I hope that we can manage to get you and Gary as 2 of the network coordinators who are actually here to maybe have a powwow over lunch, a little bit late in the piece perhaps, but we'll try and do that for you. When networks were proposed and established as the alternative to a branch in recess, that meaning nothing, we knew there were going to be lessons that had to be learned. And I guess for the people in the areas where networks are what we can manage instead of branches, you're doing the learning for us. So we recognise that. and we do need your feedback, and find ways to make it work. But it has to work for the members in your area. So I think we need to share the lessons, and let's get you and Gary talking. Paula, maybe? Are we going to Paula Waby?
Just couldn't agree more with what Raylene has expressed. As she knows, and some of the other people here know, that's one of the reasons that I decided to stand down as coordinator. I really don't feel that that is working for us. I really would prefer that we had a committee, but yeah, as we know, we've had issues with that as well. So I'd be really keen to hear about any feedback that other networks are having about how things are working for them. I also just wanted to add, as the previous coordinator, I forgot a couple of things. Our Dunedin City Council has brought back in the Barnes dance in the middle of the city for all the traffic to stop at once, and we're really pleased about that. And talking to a lot of drivers, they say it's working traffic-wise as well, because I thought there might be some, I think that's why we went away from them at one stage, that they felt that the traffic didn't flow so well. And the other thing, I'm still trying to work with the regional council about getting audio announcements on our buses. And while I'm not the coordinator anymore, I'm president of DPA locally and on our Dunedin City Council Disability Issues Advisory Group. So I'm still lobbying for things. And of course, I will liaise with Raylene and other blind people locally, for support for the things that I'm still trying to push for.
Thank you, Paula. In my notes, Vic, want to ask a question?
I just want to say one thing, Paula, and probably to the ones in Wellington and Auckland. If you're advocating for audio announcements on the buses, you should also ask them to put in the external announcements. And when the bus opens, it'll identify the bus that it is. So that'll be located at the front of the bus. So I think that's important to remember when you're doing that, okay?
I think ideas like that feature in the "Is this the right bus?" discussion brief. Yeah. So we're not going to do them. Now, I just mentioned your name before, Gary, for Taranaki. You are here. Do you want to give us a verbal at all? Very quickly is a great answer. You need a microphone. Got it?
My colleague directly in front of me, I'm Gary, behind you. And I would like to meet you and any of the other network coordinators that are here, or anybody that's considering doing it, or any group or branch that's considering becoming a network as we are. So maybe we can talk about it over lunch.
Thank you, Gary. And
Jonathan, it's Rose here. Can I invite myself to join the two of you? Yeah, would that be helpful? Yep, that would be good, because just getting an understanding, in terms of what should be happening and what hasn't happened is important. So that would be cool, guys.
Hastings, Jenny, have you got anything to share with us? Just briefly, you need a microphone. Jenny, you need a microphone.
Just to say that as we are only a small unit, I have been trying to get more people to come along to our meetings by advertising on the notice board in one of the supermarkets in Hastings, even putting it so that if a family member had someone who had eyesight problems, to come along, as we are mostly quite a social group rather than a political group. And we have got a couple of new people, but it depends to see if they're going to stay or not. That's half the problem, is whether they want to come along or it's just not for them. You know, They've got to make up their own minds. But we are endeavouring to try and get more people to come along to the Hastings branch. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jenny. Someone to move we receive the reports from national councillors and network representatives. Thomas moving, seconded. Lena, right. All those in favour? Opposed? Good. Thank you, everyone. You'll appreciate iClock Watch. 7.15 representative appointments. This is where the board tells you formally about the appointments that we made since the last time we met at conference. Someone like to move we received that report? I think that's a Murray and a seconder. Gary and yeah, I'll take Gary. Is there any need for discussion? No hands. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. No one's opposed. Good. 7.16, the patron. This is a report from the board to explain that we have a lapse as per our regulations in establishing who is our patron. Attempts have been made to engage with our current patron, Chris Laidlaw. Anyone who reads anything or listens to anything in the news or talkback in Wellington knows that Mr. Laidlaw is probably stuck on a bus somewhere and can't answer his phone. But in all seriousness, Chris has been a little hard to get hold of this year. And so we have in this paper set out where we're at. I need someone to move that we receive the update.
I'll move that.
And thanks, Daniel. And a seconder? Mike, was it? I'm going to also suggest that in a second, so can we receive the paper? I'll follow up in a second. Receive the paper. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Lovely. Opposed? No, good. What I'm going to suggest is that a statement in the minutes recognise that conference understands the position our organisation is in with respect to our patron. There will be updates on this topic coming out, and hopefully a resolution at our next AGM conference. So, here's my plan for the remaining hour. You're going to stand up in a minute and stretch. You're going to sit down. Then we're going to have half an hour for conference 2019 and any feedback from this event. Then we're going to have quarter of an hour for general business because it seems there's a couple of people who want us to tackle a few things. And then you're going to leave us quarter of an hour to say thank you to all the people that matter. So 2-minute stretch. Let's go. Don't go leaving the room, ordering coffees, etc. We're just having a stretch. Oh. I'm going to bring my own chair. Lovely. Thank you, everybody. Just while you're taking your seats again, I'll let you know that about 3 weeks ago, I went out for what Cubs call an urban ramble, where the Cubs get dropped off at a location in town that they're not supposed to know, and they're supposed to work their way back to the den. And the little groups of cubs get dropped off, and they supposedly don't know where they are, and they get dropped off with an adult who supposedly does know where they are. The irony in my group was that because, especially when there are young ladies present, cubs are supervised by 2 adults. I got paired up with someone who drove us to the location who didn't know how to get there and didn't know how to use her GPS. So we used the Godfrey positioning system. We found the location, unblindfolded the cubs, and then made our way back. And the cub leader said, "We need you back at 7:30, which I took very seriously. And I made sure we arrived at 7:29 and a half. Only to find that half the other cubs had run their way back and been standing around for half an hour wondering where we were. Right, our final run into 12:45 and lunch is going to start with a door prize because otherwise I have to take them all home.
This one is Wanganui branch.
Wanganui, $50 going to...
Oh my goodness, Paula Tesoriero.
Oh, lucky you turned up today.
How's that?
That's a lot of ice cream, Samuel. don't you say, "Oh, I left my purse at home." Rubbish, Mum. You got $50. That's a 3-course ice cream. People, we've already established the dates for conference in Auckland in 2019. Those people who know that we're supposed to move around would be aware that we ought to have been in Auckland this year according to the regular schedule. Auckland proved very challenging to find a venue that is suitable.
Well, and that was affordable.
And within budget. Okay. And so we came here, but we already have continued to press upon Rose to find a location in Auckland. That has been done. So rather unusually, we know where we are and when we are at conference in the next year with a great deal of certainty. What we don't know is what you want to happen at your conference next year. The board, of course, will take your ideas and set a pathway to that conference. Please recall that the one following that will be our 75th and therefore a Jubilee conference. So some of your ideas today may well end up being sort of kept for the bigger deal the following year. But ideas are welcome. Feedback on anything that happened this weekend is welcome. If you don't want to share your ideas in a microphone sense, then we will receive your feedback by any means you so choose. We do want to hear from you. Yep.
Hi everyone, it's Rose here. And just to say that we have got a form that will be publicised on Wednesday. So we'll pop that out on email and print copies as we do with everything always in the alternate formats, so that we can get your feedback through a slightly different process as well. So everybody that's been here through any part of the AGM and conference will receive an opportunity to provide feedback that gives us a little bit more focused information. Thank you.
Thanks, Rose. So, speakers, as in you lot, not speakers for conference.
Okay, so Jonathan, we've got Chrissy, Anya, Mike.
We'll do them in that order, please. Chrissy, Anya, Mike. And if you want to speak, put up your hands and we'll take some other names.
It's Chrissy here. Thank you. I'd just like to give a virtual bouquet to the board for such a great program this year. I thought the range and quality of speakers that we had yesterday was excellent. And I actually really liked the fact that for Kylie and Leilu, we were only given a title of what they were going to say, and they were the most amazing presentations, and in some ways not knowing exactly what they were going to present added to that amazement. Thank you.
Thanks, it's Anya. I'd second that as well. Also, just to say that I thought that the breakout session yesterday was great, and that it was nice to talk in groups. You won't be surprised that I thought that, but yeah, I'm glad that happened. I thought that worked really well. And I also thought that the program yesterday in particular was really cool. It was nice and varied. I would agree with what Clive said the other night about it would be ideal, if possible, to promote even those aspects of the program that are confirmed sooner, and maybe just try and get the information for conference up on the website sooner, because I remember looking for it a couple of months ago, trying to find the dates and struggling and having to go look and focus. So yeah, just the advertising. I think that, you know, there is what, like, coming to this conference and seeing, particularly yesterday, but the whole thing definitely gave me reassurance that in a lot of ways feedback is being taken into account, which is great. And I think that having the program out, even the parts of it that you do know, further in advance and making that available on, you know, pushing out through all different mediums, including social media and that kind of thing, would be a big help. I also, and I will include this in my summary of feedback off of that original paper that I brought the other night, because I wrote it there. But I did wonder whether it could be cool to just have like an open 45 minutes of ask Rose or the board questions kind of session, where you can just bring things. I think it's kind of half covered under maybe matters arising or not arising, or whatever that thing near the beginning is called. But
the annual report?
Yeah, I don't know, but just something that's a little clearer and easier for members to see. That this is just an open question session. That's what that's for. Obviously, it has a time cap on it, so your question might or might not get answered, but I thought that could be cool. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Anya. Mike? Following Mike, Catherine in Auckland, and then we're back here, Leilu Thomas Vaughan.
Thank you, Mike here. To endorse the statements from the previous speakers, thank you. But my main comment is that we would have liked documentation to have been with us much earlier. There were several things that we would have liked to have taken to our members for a more considered decision that we could bring to conference, and we didn't have time to do that.
Thank you, Mike. Catherine in Auckland, and we've got you, JP. Catherine?
I could write a book on the ideas that I've got, but I won't right now.
You can do that on Wednesday, apparently.
While I would just happen to be scrolling through the notes on my tablet and came across where the conference is going to be next year, and I thought, that's not anywhere near a bus stop, but I actually had a look. So you might be interested to know there is an orange airport bus that goes from the airport and it stops almost outside the hotel. So if anybody wants to know that, I thought that was quite interesting.
Moving many bodies from an airport to a hotel is a key part of Rose's planning. You're all catching the bus next year.
I can't say in terms of Auckland that it's very central. It's about as south as you can get.
Right.
But anyway, I kind of was thinking, oh, I wish I'd known they were looking for a venue, because I'm good at things like that. The idea that went through my mind is, and I don't know if this would be in conjunction with the conference or maybe a separate thing that I would organise. I'm very aware that a lot of, I work with a lot of therapists because I work as a music therapist, and a lot of them, their only contact with anybody with any kind of disability is part of their work. Very few of them have friends or socialise just as a social thing. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could invite therapists, psychologists, or whatever, you know, people, just maybe invite them for a meal, maybe not our main meal, but perhaps the first meal in the evening, to just come and socialise with us. That's just an idea. And the other thing that has been on my mind is I'd love to start an interest group, or what do we call it, for those with low vision. And I'm not trying to cut out totally blind, but I often find that we have different issues, and it's really difficult to discuss everybody's issues all in one weekend. And it would be awesome to, if any other low vision print readers would be interested in being in contact with me and forming a group, that would be awesome. And in conjunction with that, I sent a proposal to the Music Therapy Society this year for their AGM. They had already planned something else, but it was along the lines of including this whole blindness awareness for therapists, teachers, etc., and finishing up in the evening with going to have dinner at Eating in the Dark. And I'm not saying that as an emulation of blindness, but it's just an amazing experience that I've actually done myself, taking some of my family and friends, and it would be a whole package deal. But that's just some ideas that are going around in my head, and I'd be happy to help organise if people were interested.
Thank you, Catherine. Can I suggest, Catherine, that you send an email to National Office pronto, giving the details that you are happy for National Office to share with anyone else who is interested in your proposal.
Okay, cool.
So we don't have to promote your contact details far and wide. Right. We were back in this room with Leilu.
I was just thinking, because I didn't actually know till this conference happened that, I knew that it conference was streaming to Auckland, but I didn't actually know that anyone around the world could access the stream. And I think that should have been advertised more, because I'd have promoted it to people around the place a bit for those who wanted to watch bits of it.
I think at times, Leilu, we forget that people don't know things because we've been doing it for so long. It's just what we do. So I think we do need to remind people that these things are happening, even though it's going to feel like grandma teaching some people to suck eggs. Yep, there are always people who need to know more. Thank you. Who was next? Thomas.
I'm happy to defer my comments till a bit later because it's more about this conference. But as we've had a mixture of both, I'm not
now
sure.
It's good.
Okay, cool. A couple of things that stood out for me was the concept and the pathway of co-design. And I think lots of people talk about co-design and they have different interpretations and different understandings of what co-design is. And I'd actually like to see some work happening within this organisation to better understand what is co-design and how do I participate in co-design and how are my comments valued as part of that process. In fact, there could be a possibility, dare I suggest, that both this organisation, Blind Foundation and other consumer organisations could actually do something jointly together so that everybody is on the same page. My other comment is really around how do I describe it? I went looking for my cape the other day and my grappling hook and couldn't find it. I looked on the Equipment Solutions store to see if they actually sold them, but couldn't see them there either. I thought the presentation from Martine and then the little media clip was excellent and something that we should be proud of. I was involved some years ago with something similar to this, which was a bit revolutionary at the time. Some of you may remember Freddie the Cane. And there was quite a bit of criticism from some of our community and from probably some professionals, but it was a way of getting information and helping kids understand the importance of the white cane. And I sort of see this as being the tip of the iceberg of getting those messages out to our colleagues, our friends, family, anyone who really doesn't understand fully sometimes the importance and how we get around society, how we need to, and what society needs to do to make it a more inclusive society for us. So, as I said, a great presentation and love to see more of them. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Thomas. Vaughan?
Given, Mr. Chairman, that we're discussing developments within this conference, I just wonder if I'd do the closing remarks on behalf of the Resolutions Committee for this conference.
I was going to let you do that around 12:30.
I can do either.
12:30 is good.
All right.
I'm trying to get the flow of what's happened well this time, because that tells us what you want retained for next time. and ideas for next time. So we're going to John Puhara in Auckland, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to see if we have next conference or a conference ahead is a bit of history of some of the people that's come through this organisation. I was at a branch meeting a few months ago and somebody talked about Pat Beamish. No one knew anything about him. I worked with Pat Beamish when he first came to Auckland after he's losing his sight. We worked in the wire shop together. We shared up in the room up in Pearson House together. And these sorts of things, and then I would like to see a time in conference about history of some of the people that's come through this organisation. I've been around here a long, long time and I've never seen it happen yet. So I'd be quite happy to participate in that sort of thing if asked. Thank you.
Yep, I think we do need to embrace our history, John, and I rather suspect that the Jubilee Conference in 2020, yeah, keep taking those natural health pills that you love, and we'll see you at 2020 with all your stories.
If I'm still around, sir.
What do you mean if? Get those multivitamins going, dude. Next.
We don't have any.
Clive's popped his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any sort of major suggestions regarding the conference itself, but I just want to make a couple of comments. I want us to keep encouraging, Anya, for example, who is leading the charge on how to evolve conference to go forward. I think we need to keep moving, just moving in the direction that she's signalling. And the other comment I just wanted to make, which is not so much about conference itself, except that it's a reaction about this conference. Again, going back to the Foundation's board, and perhaps just a quick sidestep on that. I hope I wasn't referring to the performance of the board. I was more referring to where it prioritizes its time. Please just
understand. We're going to come back to that in general business, Clive.
We'll come back to that.
Stay with conference at the moment, please.
What really has affected me at this conference is the contribution from younger people, and I mean people under 30. Because I think there are times, I've picked this up myself at board meetings, when we're spoken of rather disparagingly as being, 20th century or as being not willing to, or not interested in moving forward. But actually, I've always believed that it's the opposite, that we actually are the force that is taking the blind community forward, and it's just that we're not given the credit for that. And I think the evidence of that is here. The fact that we've had a hookup between two venues that has been very successful. I don't think it's been done to the level of quality. The Foundation, for example, has linked meetings in the past, but they've only used a telephone system and it hasn't been very good. This is setting a new standard. The fact that we have got strong contributions from young people. Most of them are young ladies. I don't know that's telling us anything, but that could just be the way of the statistics at the moment. Women are the ones that talk, somebody's just said, but I'm not sure about that either. Anyway, I think there's some really strong and positive signals from this conference that I will have no hesitation in bringing to the board's attention at the Blind Foundation at our next meeting, because it's just part of the ongoing development that we're on, and it helps to respond to some of the rather misdirected criticisms, I guess, that some people send in our direction. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. While Rose is writing down a list of speakers for me, I'd just like to comment. I've received any number of people saying how good the sound quality has been this weekend. I was going to save it for the. I was going to save it for the thank yous. We'll get it again, but the image quality has been great for those who can engage with it. I would say almost for one speaker yesterday, a bit of a distraction. But the sound quality is such that if it weren't for reminders of who was in Auckland and who was in Wellington, I suspect that many of us wouldn't be able to tell the difference when a speaker is just speaking. And so it has been awesome, I think. Hopefully as inclusive as possible, but we don't need the microphone listening to lollies. We've also had great feedback from those people who need the hearing loop as well. And so it's great that we've got those things, working at their best. It certainly makes life easier when people aren't grumbly because they can't engage. Yeah, indeed. So, right.
So we have Dave Allen, RJ, and Carolyn Weston.
We'll go to RJ first. RJ, then Dave, then Dave Allen, then Carolyn Weston. RJ, please.
I'd just like to say that it's the first time attending a conference. I've really enjoyed the weekend, and I've really liked the way that we've been able to hook on with Auckland as well. And looking forward maybe to coming back again to another conference. Thanks.
Thanks, RJ. And you know that you don't get to win 2 raffles every conference, right? Dave Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to mention that last night I received a phone call as dinner was beginning that came from a new foundation member. And he wanted to let me know that he'd been watching throughout the afternoon the conference and how much he enjoyed it. And in particular, he wanted to let me know that he was watching me at that very moment on screen and was able to tell where I was in the room. So that is an impressive thing to have happen. That's never happened to me before. It was a wonderful experience to have. And you can bet that I'll be reminding him real soon that he needs to join Blind Citizens New Zealand. That made that happen.
We're coming to Carolyn Weston now.
I'd also like to talk about the screening. I know it was a pilot this year, and I think it's been very successful. I know how it feels from our point of view, hearing the people from Auckland. I'm not sure, I presume they feel as though it's successful themselves and that the quality of the sound's been good for them, because I'd be interested in that. I'm sure that Southland branch would be very interested in being involved in the screening for conferencing. It's in Auckland. Most of us won't be able to afford to go up from Invercargill to Auckland, but I think we'd be really interested in participating in conference the same way as Auckland's doing today. So I hope we can do this in the future. And Rose, I think we probably could get some funding from the, branch. Could he organise some funding from COBS or somewhere to get that?
Yep. Cool. Southland branch has been pretty good at getting funding in the past. I think you've got some interesting liquor laws down there, harking back to the 20th century, and it was a good one, and then everyone else should have kept it too.
Sorry.
Anyone in Auckland? Kylie in here, and then we're going to Auckland for Catherine Stevenson. Yes. Kylie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have really enjoyed this conference, but I'm interested in capacity building. I think any organisation, if it is going to stay green and growing, it needs to make sure that we have people who are skilled to lead, to do all the things that an organisation needs to run. And I wonder if it would be helpful to devote part of conferences to a bit of training. That could be in the form of educational presentations on anything like from the dry things like meeting procedure through to self-advocacy, aspects of leadership, all those sorts of things.
Catherine in Auckland?
Yeah, Catherine here. Yes, I've enjoyed the streaming too. And it's been fun to be able to watch what's going on down there on the screen as well. A couple of comments. One, I wondered if during the breaks, it would be kind of cool if, like if I wanted to chat to somebody who's down there, hey, I'll meet you at the screen, and we could just chat over the screen during a break or something. That would have been cool, although it probably doesn't give our people running the equipment a break. But I don't know if it's something that can be just left on for people to go to if they want to. The other quick comment was, if the hotel in Mangere is the same one where we had the one-day conference several years ago, I do remember the actual room that we were in being really, really dark. And for me, that was quite distracting. So I know that I should be so lucky to have enough vision to even notice, as my other blind friends keep telling me, oh, yes, you're lucky you can see what you can see. But yeah, it's another consideration. I know for me, lighting is really important. Thanks.
Thanks, Catherine. Anyone else? So there's no other speakers. We, I think out of all of that, may have got one conference theme suggestion, which was co-design. Did anyone else have any quick fire ideas for a conference theme?
Jonathan, it's Rose. I actually have one from Doug Johnston, who suggested that given the ageing population and blindness-related elements of that, having a specific focus perhaps on older people could be useful. So I said I would pass that on.
I can hear someone in the other breath turning that coin over, right, Anya? Yeah, yes. So, any other quick fire ideas for a conference theme? I know.
So we've got Catherine Stevenson in Auckland.
Catherine in Auckland? Anyone else?
Yeah, perhaps was it clear before I was talking about the looking at issues for low vision print readers, and maybe a theme around and the other one of including therapists and stuff from outside who perhaps don't get a chance to see us.
So those might be ideas rather than a whole overarching theme. Yeah.
Carolyn Pete.
Carolyn Pete. Quick fire ideas, people. Just a couple of moments left.
Given the fact we're looking at a new constitution, a change, a new direction for our organisation, what about something like the future pushing forward new horizons?
Anyone else?
Murray.
You look like the last, by the way.
Okay, just very quickly. I know this might be quite dry for some people, but I think we need to at some stage have a really challenging conversation about leadership. We need to have elections for our board. We need to have people standing up, and we need to find ways of encouraging people to do that, or at least finding out why people aren't doing that. So I just want to put it out there that it's something that we should perhaps think about, because you don't want the same people on the board in 50 years' time. We'll all be old and crusty.
Well, most of them will be over 100. Telegrams from the Queen or King or whatever it is by then. Yeah, be a republic, says a Scotsman here. Don McKenzie, are you coming for a theme, or are you waiting for the general business that's coming straight after that? Microphone to Don.
No, he's waiting for the general
Waiting for the general business. Good man, thank you. We can read sign language here, it seems. Okay. Thank you, people. There's a bit of food for thought there. Your ideas, of course, don't have to stop there. You can be sending them in to National Office or any board member, I guess. You can find ways to make sure that your views are known. Right, general business, time permitting. Time permitting is 15 minutes. Don, you wanted one starter for 10. George, you wanted another. I'm not sure yet if they're the same topic. Don, you're first.
Yeah, I wanted to just pick up on the things that Clive was saying. I also want to pick up on your opening address, which I thought was very good, and it was around the theme of change. And what I took from that was that we can actually be that change, the change that we wish to see. I concur with Clive that really that the purpose of the foundation ought to be around blind people living, and blind and low vision people living in the least restrictive environment. So the provision of services that is absolutely critical. Now, this is a party political broadcast from now on, Mr. Chairman. We have a fine slate of candidates coming up, and I respect the process that is in sway in conjunction with the foundation. I think that's very good. But we actually do have some very fine candidates at the moment with a good deal of cultural experience, a good deal of competence, and a good deal of experience already in the blindness industry. And I'd like to think that people like Martine, like La Halatau, who will bring great diversity to the board, and that's what the board needs. And we need to be exercising our strength, I suppose, in shaping services, shaping the foundation, shaping things for the future. So I'm just urging people to vote for self-determination, vote for change. You'll vote for the people that you want, but I just want to draw to your attention that we do have a fine slate of candidates. And Clive was talking about services. I think that change is as much around perspective, culture, style, and it's about nothing about us without us. That it's really those sorts of things. That's where we need to be. We need to exercise what sort of things we wish for in change. We're better together. And I love the idea of co-design. I think that's really good because it seems to be so misused. But I just hope people will make our rights real and take this message that we do have a slate of fine people from this organisation back to their branches. And I hope that that will be reflected in the voting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Don. George, I think you're on the same rough topic, so we'll go for you now, shall we?
I'm not sure if I am, but I'll start by saying that I'm so glad that Clive qualified his opening remarks half an hour ago, because I've got a great admiration for Clive and I'd hate to be critical of him, and I'm pleased I'm not going to be that. Clive said that it was not the performance of the board, but rather the areas that they were concentrating on. It's the areas that I'm concerned about. I believe that the foundation's primary purpose is the service delivery. What I'm astounded at is the fact that we've now got a venture capital company. And I suggest that if they're going to put $2 million into that company, they'd be better going to Trentham Racecourse and putting it on a horse, because the success rate of venture capital companies is not great, as anyone would recognise. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I think that in a way I've been comparing the foundation and its organisation with Fonterra, which doesn't seem to be too popular with farmers nowadays, and I think for good reasons. But the foundation, that earlier on they talked about security at Braille House. The reason for the miscommunication, I would suggest, is that everything comes from the central office. Maybe it should be called the Kremlin. I'm not sure. But that's how it's acting, in my opinion. And I'm astounded at the fact that the money that was given by the public to purchase Braille House and by certain jiggery pokeries between trusts and so on, has now ended up in Foundation Properties Limited hands, together with the money that came from the sale of the land that was given to the foundation in England. And so that company is now becoming, I'm concerned, I think, the thing that the child will end up devouring the parent. That's what I'm concerned about, that the focus of the foundation becomes more of a corporate business than it does as a service provider. That's my concerns.
We are taking speakers on that topic or any other topic in general business. You do have a time limit, people. Are there any more speakers on those topics or any others? There aren't any, so...
Oh, hang on, we've just... Sorry, I've just turned around and there's two more.
Oh, we've got two more.
We've got Ina Smart and Murray.
We'll go to Ina first, Murray, and then we'll come to you. Ina. Rose has been distracted by the screen.
This is just to follow up, George. You know, the foundation is a great organisation, but if it weren't for those pesky members, it would be perfect.
Yes. Murray?
Thank you. I'll be brief. I just want to encourage people to exercise their democratic right to get really hummed off and put your questions forward to the Blind Foundation AGM. Go along to those Let's Talk sessions. I know they're a pain in the backside, but they're an opportunity to go and tell the decision makers exactly what you think. So do take up that opportunity. Do get loud. Do make noise. And there will be people out there who listen. We know there are people on the board who have our interests at heart and who do listen to us. So, yeah, I guess that's all I'm saying is you do have a voice. We look forward to hearing it. Thank you.
We're coming to Mike.
It's Mike here. Just a very quick follow-up from that previous speaker. The Blind Foundation AGM this year is in Nelson. And so if anyone's got any issues, bring them to our little branch. We might be there shouting.
Thank you, Mike. Fraser, Paul Brown, I think people need to remember there are some people who have been funded to be in this room by the Foundation's Board of Directors. So I'm going to give them a right of reply to any comments. That's a right of reply, not a party political broadcast. We're going to Paul Brown.
Just a quick one. Nicola Owen, my partner, and as you know, on board an audio describer, has asked me particularly to remind conference of some audio description stuff coming up. Wellington on Tuesday is the Opera La Boheme, and there aren't as many people coming as maybe hoped, and it's really good. And in 4 centres later on in the year, and if people want to talk to me about it, but Christchurch, Dunedin, Wellington and Auckland, the Nutcracker Ballet is going to be audio described. So I'm doing what I'm told and passing that on.
Thank you, Paul. I've got a few minutes for each of Fraser and Carolyn if you wish to use them as a board director to reply. Or just share any comments you like. Who's going first? Fraser? You don't have to.
It's okay. Thank you, everyone, for the feedback. It's really valuable, and it's been a really interesting experience over the last couple of days. I guess I just wanted to reiterate Murray's comments that I think we're now in an era where the opportunities for feedback to how the board operates and how the strategic plan is developed are better than they've ever been. But of course, they're not perfect. And of course, the election process will decide just how the board is performing. So, yeah, and just some compliments to Rose and Jonathan and Pooty and the team on putting together an amazing 3 days. I know it takes a heck of a lot of work and work that people won't always anticipate. And I think in terms of the professional delivery of the program and in terms of all the supporting services and information provided, it's been absolutely first class. So congratulations.
Thank you, Fraser. Carolyn?
Thank you. I'd like to say I'm glad that I was able to come to this conference, because I wasn't going to come until the Blind Foundation board said, oh, would you like to go? And I said, oh, yes, that would be good, thank you. And so I've been able to come because of the generosity of the board. As most of you will know, I've been involved with blind citizens for many, many years, and services is really at my heart. And I believe that it's really important that the core business of the Blind Foundation is providing services to blind and vision impaired people. Now, I think one of the important things for people to remember now is that it seems to be that if you make a complaint about a service or something, they do tend to put a lot of weight on that now. So I'm urging people that if you have concerns, no use talking about it in your backyard or, in the local office. Please do take the opportunity of writing a complaint or ringing up and speaking to Noreen. I actually made a complaint about something recently. I had to say I wasn't satisfied with the outcome, but it did seem as though we've had a better service since Vic and my complaint. We did it together. And so I think that making complaints is really important. And the other thing was to say that the only roadshow meeting I've attended was the one in Dunedin, and the feedback I'm hearing from people in this room as well as other parts of Dunedin is that they really found that meeting the best Blind Foundation board meeting they've ever had. That because it wasn't structured with questions, they were able to bring up their own topics and discuss those. And I think they said that was a lot more valuable. So maybe things are starting to change. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. Okay, people, we've got some time now to recognise what it takes to get an event like this together. I'm actually on an organising committee for a conference which is bigger than this one. We have an organising committee of 2. It's the New Zealand Statistical Association Conference, and if any of you would like to attend, it's in the last week of November in Palmerston North. I wasn't expecting many of you to want to. Anyway, so one of the things that I know is how much time it takes to organise a conference. I can tell you that I have used up at least a week and a half of my working life this year on that conference. And it isn't even for another 6 weeks yet. I expect in the next 6 weeks that about half of my work time will be spent organising that conference. Okay, so a significant portion of my working life. It is not always easy to accommodate everybody's needs. And I have the privilege of saying to anyone who wants to come to my conference, go to that website and book your own accommodation. Book your own travel. I'm responsible for 6 people and myself. The work required to get everyone in this room and this year to get people into that room in Auckland is massive. And I do think we need to recognise that an update to a board and the board going, yeah, great, good, and here's some ideas, is the least of the massive effort that Rose and then her staff end up putting into this event. And for every minute of fun you've had this weekend, I assure you there has been a minute of stress for Rose. Earlier this week, I said, how's it all going? And she said, it's going well. I said, you're lying. But please only tell me the things I need to know. And she goes, well, that's what I meant. There's all sorts of things going on that you don't need to know about. Thank you very much. Talk to you next time, Rose. Look, I know that this wouldn't happen without Rose and team. Big round of support, please.
We can ask Colin to fill out.
Yeah, we need Colin.
Is Colin out?
Colin,
Would you like to come in now?
can you come in, please? Colin, you're one of the duty managers, and normally you only get, a handful of blind people coming in here at once, causing trouble for you. They're called the board. And sometimes you get individuals who come in for various reasons, but the Brentwood looks after us as a board pretty well, and we keep coming back as a consequence, and it means we keep coming back here for conference. I would like to thank the Brentwood for making things happen. Colin, I don't know if you want to say any words on behalf of your staff, but everyone in the room is going to say thank you for the Brentwood team. Thank you. Yeah, you need a microphone, Colin. There's people in Auckland who want to know how much pleasure they missed out on.
It's always great to see you again. We get to know most of you. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you very much.
Cheers. So thank you to the hotel staff. Our thanks for funding and support. The Blind Foundation is the major funding stream for this organisation. We also get funding from the Lotteries Commission. We do know that members are giving money to this organisation either as part of their income stream or in one-off donations, and we do appreciate them. And in deference to those who want to remain anonymous, we don't name any of the members who donate. Streamliner Productions. Well, what can I say? They're mentioned here. They're mentioned here because they gave us a great deal. And I don't mean they gave us a great deal of service. I mean, they actually gave us a great deal in terms of the financial proposition. But I have to say that we got value for money. Thanks, Josiah, and your team. Because I don't know who it is in Auckland today. It's Sophia's back. Yay, Sophia. Well done, Sophia. TBD Design. Obviously, we didn't get to see Brooke and say thank you very much for that.
TB Design is our printer.
Sorry.
Who do us good deals with everything, including the launch of our Braille strategy document.
The Braille strategy document. Now, these are the people that print everything. That's right. My apologies. But remember, if you wanted a copy of the Braille strategy, you should get one before you leave the room for lunch. And we do get great service from them, so that's cool. Able, the producers of captions and audio description. It's great that we get to watch AD on TV, but actually they've supported with the audio description you heard yesterday. So, so Bob, you know more about Bob, courtesy of the people at Able. We will play it once more, at least before we go. Vaughan, you wanted to say something?
We're just getting a mic to you, Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Resolutions Committee operated very well again this year. When an organisation like ours puts 5 people into a room together who barely know each other, and the organisation says, do the work. What happens over the 3 or 4 hours that we actually did the work this year is that we did start to get to know each other. We were evolving into a team that could do the work, and we submitted the outcome of that work to you today. So on behalf of Conference, I'd like to thank your Resolutions Committee. So we've had Anya Kelly Costello, we've had Chrissy Fern, we've had George Taggart and Kylie Maloney. Thank you all for your commitment, your contributions, the leadership that started to show in this conference this morning. And it's been a pleasure to work with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, team. So I thanked all the people that sort of had to be here. I now need to want to thank the people who came for other reasons and got roped into doing things for us. There are volunteers running around with microphones. I've thanked the staff for running things, but the volunteers who are here helping out, doing jobs. When Rose has said, please do this, you've done it, that helps make conference run smoothly. So thank you to all of our volunteers here and to your volunteers in Auckland, who I'm sure have been doing much the same for you up there. Volunteers are important. Thank you very, very much. Ina, you're not going to try and have a point of order at this late time, are you? Ina,
no, I'd just like to say I think thanks should go to Joe Gilfillan, who did the discs that came out, and he made a marvellous job of it. It's always hard to read finance, so you understand it, but he did it. And I just feel that this organisation, you know, owes him a thank you for doing it for us. And there are another 2 people that I would like to acknowledge, well, to say thank you, and that's June Oran and Bev McCulloch, who have been so helpful to us, you know, filling up coffee cups and running around and making sure we've got food and all that sort of thing. Thank you, you 2. You've been marvellous.
I have to say, Ina, that when Rose gives verbal updates to the management committee about things being put right, probably the most frequent name we hear is Joe Gilfillan. I think he's helped so many times in the last few years just by making things happen in the background. We better make sure we get him to conference next year so that we can all say thank you ourselves. Eh?
Can I make a comment?
Rose.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you, Ina. Because I personally think Joe is an amazing guy. No matter how organised we are, there will sometimes be situations where things don't go according to plan. And even if it's a branch newsletter that arrives 2 days before it needs to be recorded and I can't give the due notice, I have to suck up that embarrassment and go cap in hand to Joe to say, can you do this? And he does it. He is absolutely amazing. And with our conference agenda, all the organised requirements for CDs on Daisy were dispatched on Thursday, whatever the date was of, Thursday week ago. And I know a good 95% of everybody that was getting CD had received that by Friday, and some received it Saturday. I've heard of instances where they might have got it Monday, and we know of a late situation. But where it was all organised and everything was provided, Joe had he just exceeded my expectations. And in terms of the financial recording, Joe particularly said to me, he said, oh my God, Rose, I never know how well people understand finances. So that was his first point, because not everybody does. So he said that makes him stop to think how well he needs to record it. And we talked about getting feedback around that in particular. And I encouraged Joe to put a comment at the very beginning of the CD this time, as opposed to the end, to say, give us feedback, let Rose or Joe know. So thank you, Ina. I'm really pleased to receive that feedback and to be able to pass that on to Joe.
Martine, come to you.
Hi, everybody. I'd like us to thank Maria Stevens from the Blind Foundation and her team for give a quick turnaround time for the Braille strategy, Braille printing out. You know, the extra time and hours went into that. And behind the scenes, so just a quick example, on behalf of this organization and the Blind Foundation, I presented in Turkey in August and in Mongolia in September at conferences. And often you get asked in a very short notice, oh, we know you're going to present this, but can you also present on something else? And you can't just say no, because it's what you need to do, you know. And both occasions, Maria had, was unfortunately gave Maria at going to Turkey less than 2 days' notice, going to Mongolia less than a week's notice. And I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just need Braille in my hand. I still trust hard copy Braille, and it's turned up. So I think we really have got wonderful champions and supporters and people who make things happen for us. Thank you.
Rose, you've got a couple of thank yous on the topic of Braille, I believe.
Yeah, I have. Thank you. And Martin, thank you, because Maria was on my list. I'd asked Jonathan. And so, yes, we had a tight turnaround for the production of the Braille strategy document due to some challenges outside our control. And Maria and her team absolutely just pitched in and got those documents done in a really short time frame. And so thank you, Maria and Jenna and everybody else that was supporting you do that. And I know on Thursday night, Maria said they would be working additional hours just to get as many documents with the swell paper and the Braille done. So that was amazing, absolutely amazing. Our printer, in terms of producing the print document, which is where a little bit of the, had also produced some covers for our CDs, so that's all nicely produced as well. But also in terms of our conference agenda, to thank Mary and Clive at AI Comms for all the Braille copies that we had requested and being delivered nice and early on Thursday morning. That was amazing too. We really do have some real champions both within the foundation and organisations like AI Comms and Blindsight, I want to mention as well, where Paula and Dave produce stuff for me and National Office on a case-by-case basis. So, Jonathan, we really do have some amazing people out there that support us at every opportunity. And when I think of people like Maria and Joe, it's also about, the relationships that we have and how they will work their time frames to do and meet our needs in amongst all the important exam material, board elections, and everything else that they have on their schedule. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. I've got two very important thank yous left. The first of which is for someone who is not in the room. And of course, she's a little bit busy right now running around after 3 kids, spending my money to keep them entertained. Some of you will have had the privilege of meeting Amy last night, and perhaps in the hotel at some other time. This year has been very, very busy, and without her support that I've never had before, I wouldn't have got so much done for Blind Citizens New Zealand. My second very special thank you is for you, because this organisation would be nothing without you. And more importantly, it wouldn't be anything without us. I hope that conference has been as stimulating for you as we hoped. I hope that you are going away believing in raising expectations for those around you and perhaps even for yourself. My phrase that I wrote down yesterday and that is at the bottom of my document for the agenda came from our youngest speaker. Blind people need to want to achieve. Thank Leilu's dad for that, apparently. we all get our inspiration in different ways. But for me, I want to achieve, and I fight damn hard for it. And I know there are others who do likewise, whether that be a small or a profound exercise that they are undertaking. So thank you to everyone in this room and in Auckland, and to those people who are still engaging by listening online. Thank you. I'd like the microphone to go to Daniel for a closing karakia, please. At 12:45.
Tino e tata. E wha manakingi o mai rā mātou. Manakingi o mai mātou ko mutu nei tēnei o āhui tau. Manakingi o mai mātou hoki na ki o mātou kāinga ka hati ke hia ke hia ke. Manakingi o mai hoki te hermana me te kaimahi o tēnei rōpu. Ino e tēnei nā mātou e pā. Ino e tingo o tō tamo i hukraiti. Amen.
Daniel, please. Yep. Daniel, the door prize bucket is coming your way. Some suggestion you didn't think you were going to be at conference for a while. Would you like to pull out 2 names for door prizes?
One at a time.
One at a time.
First one is for Nelson Branch's door prize.
First one, Nelson Branch has provided.
It's a lovely little flax basket.
Flex basket,
with scented
goodies,
soap, with a
scented
lovely
soaps,
selection of scented.
lovely stuff inside. Daniel?
Kevin Gorman.
Kevin is in the room.
Right.
Lovely.
Hand up for Kevin.
And the last.
Kevin, can you pop your hand up, please, and Hannah will bring this to you. Thank you. Is it TY?
TY? Is it TY in the room in Auckland?
She's in Auckland.
No, she's not present. Sorry, TY.
Right. Pull out another one. And this one is for this has been donated by a very supportive member of the organisation, and it's an Echo Dot. You know, Alexa.
Ooh.
Kylie Maloney.
And Kylie, with the Echo Dot, there's a little plug because you will need a transformer, yeah. So it's all good.
Lovely. Thank you, everybody. There are people who are going to need to see Rose for taxi vouchers, etc. We'll do that over lunch. Don't panic. We have plenty of time. But board members, you are required at the front of the room for hopefully a very quick meeting. It's no surprises, people. We do this all the time. Safe travels, everybody. See you next year.